Here we go, back on the Gill Athletics Connections podcast. Again, so humble that you would press play today. I think this makes 2 weeks in a row with my favorite. I'm biased. I'm the host. I get to be biased with my favorite stratum, if you will, of track and field, and that's my JUCO, my community college coaches. I'm pretty sure if I timed this right, that Ms. Cleary, she was last week over in Iowa Central, and today I'm going to have a fun one here. First of all, easy name to say, except for a school, but I think I've nailed that. So let's get right into it. Help me welcome the head coach of Umpqua. We're going to learn more about that community college in the great state of Oregon. Help me welcome the wise, the wonderful Mr. Alan King. Alan, how are you, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited.
Awesome. We got to dive right in. Umpqua, I'm assuming that is like a Native American name from out in Oregon. Is that correct?
That is correct. And beautiful campus setting, about 100 acres. The North Umpqua River wraps around our campus. And so you can find people fishing right after class. And I have athletes that walk down the river when we're done with pole vault and go fishing. And it's a cool place. We got a fish ladder here, salmon run, all sorts of fun stuff here.
So that makes sense because your mascot is the Riverhawks. So that makes like all the sense in the world. Then
Yep.
So give us a picture. As we kind of all of us can picture Oregon. It's kind of this big rectangle, if you will. And if you're listening to this podcast, you probably know where Eugene is. And if you know where Eugene is, that means you probably know where Portland is, and you know exactly what I mean when I say that. Give us where is Umpqua in relation?
We are 1 hour south of Eugene, so right on I-5.
Oh yeah.
So it's an easy trip. Makes coaching out here fun to go up and watch like pre-classic every year now.
Yeah.
Plays, do all that fun stuff.
Did you go to pre this year?
I did, yeah.
Oh, I missed it, and oh my gosh, it's always amazing. First of all, it literally is my favorite track meet ever. A 3 hour-ish window. The announcer does a great job of telling you where to look. There's action going all the time. That's a pretty cool meet. So you got to be there this year. Sold out, by the way. That's amazing.
Yeah, sold out. And like I said, I've been a couple years now, obviously, since I've moved out here. And then I had one trip there before when I was coaching up at Rocky Mountain College back in the day. I took a couple athletes out there, slept in someone's backyard in a tent just to go watch this thing. But yeah, so I remember you talking on one of your podcasts about you seeing one world record at one point. And I've been so blessed. I think I've seen 5 or 6 world records just because I come here. I saw the shot world record, world record. I mean, we just saw 2 world records just last year at free. So it's just so we're just so blessed to be here.
Yeah. I was happy, and it kind of made me start thinking about other things because about the sellout. That was a big, and I was wondering because I actually had someone hit me up and was like, "Hey, it's sold out. Do you have any connections?" And literally it was the day of, and I was like, maybe, but not hours before the meet starts, man. I'm sorry. I was like, my network only goes so far that they're already busy. But I love that it was sold out because, and I don't know that it's the new stadium versus the old stadium. That's its own controversy. But, NCAA's in the old stadium was, I'll say close to sold out. And maybe it's a bad memory, but I remember the Friday, Saturday component being slam packed. And with the new stadium, we did the new stadium. So trust me, I'm a big fan of New Hayward. But it just doesn't seem like the local crowd has made it back yet. And that kind of bums me out. So I was happy about pre.
Yeah, it kind of bums me out too a little bit. And I've noticed that too, because my first pre was in the old stadium. And the biggest memory I have is when they were on the 10K and everybody stomping their feet up and down on the wooden bleachers, just following and just don't get that same enthusiasm.
Yeah.
But obviously you walk in that stadium and you're blown away. It's like,
it's an upgrade.
Where am I
at? There's nowhere else in this country, this world, you're going to get a stadium like that. It is unbelievable. And I'm glad they did it. And I just wish, I know there was a lot of controversy, more local than anywhere else about new versus old Hayward. And I just wish, some more locals would, just buy in. I mean, it's still Hayward, it's still Oregon, it's still the greatest track meets and therefore the greatest track athletes in the world there. And so I just wish there had some more embracement because I love it. It's an amazing stadium. Okay, well, Alan, I didn't invite you on here to talk about Hayward, so let's put that back to the side. But you mentioned pre, and I do. It is, like I said, my favorite of the whole world. We want to get to know you better because there's a lot of exciting things going on at Umpqua, and that's we want to talk about that near the end when we get there. So let's start building up that journey. Alan, somewhere, assuming you were an athlete, we've had plenty of coaches on here who weren't athletes. Somewhere track and field started for you. Where does that start for Alan King?
Oh, being a track athlete. I actually did a mustache to honor the guy that got me into running. So,
Is that
so
right?
yeah. So my high school coach, Burton Pierce at West High, just phenomenal. Got me wrapped into it. And I don't know what he saw in me to get me out to run, but he saw something. But we'll get to that a little bit before
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I remember when I was a kid, I was never the fastest kid. I never had the best endurance, but I remember doing the mile PE test and doing pretty good at that, 2-3 in PE. And then I think about middle school, we started riding bikes everywhere. And I think that's where my endurance came. I mean, I middle school girlfriend type situation. I couldn't find a girlfriend in town. And so I had to go to the next town over. So I'd be biking like 30 miles one way to go hang out with this girl for a couple hours and bike home. So
That's awesome.
so that's I think how my endurance kind of built up. And then I got into high school. We're still riding our bikes around. Then I started racing my friends on their bikes. And so they would do a full lap around the block, and I'd go through the alley, and we'd see who can get back first. And unfortunately, I never won, but I tried my hardest.
And where are we? Let's get a picture of
So
geographically.
I'm in Billings, Montana. I was born in Gillette, Wyoming.
Yeah.
But before I was a year old, I think we moved to Billings.
Right.
That's where my mom's from, everything like that. So, I grew up in Billings, single parent income, single parent household.
Yep.
Moved around a lot when I was a kid. Be in, an apartment for a year, grandparents for a year, a house for a year, grandparents. I think when I was between the grades first through sixth or seventh, we were in 7 different houses or in different locations.
Wow.
So,
How did, so it's very similar, by the way, from kindergarten through ninth grade. I think my wife and I, because she couldn't believe it, we counted it up one time, and it was something like I think I got to around 20 schools. I was every year I moved a school. Several years there was 2 schools, and there was 1 or 2 years where there was 3 schools. So I was always, you probably relate to this a little bit. I was always the new guy, always the new kid. Right. And so you got to quickly find who's your tribe. Who do I hang out with? Who do I not hang out with? And I wasn't as extroverted as I am today then. So it wasn't like now I'd show up at a school and be like, hey, back then it was like, holy crap, just not scared. How did you handle always being that new kid? Was that a struggle?
Yeah, I would say it was a struggle. Being a lower income kid, growing trailer courts and stuff like that here and there. I'm so grateful for my mom. I mean, we were little kids, and she went back to high school. So she's going to, sorry.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Take your time.
I mean, she dropped out of high school, got married, had us. Wow, I did not expect this emotion. So sorry about that.
You're good, brother. You're good. Be
Not
yourself.
an emotional guy. That's what's scaring me right now. Okay, drink of water, take a breath.
Absolutely. Take your time. This is what we get into, is that these are real people behind the title coach. And I know there's, when he started expressing his movement, a lot of movement, same here. I know there's people listening right now, same. So this is there's a lot of people that are supporting you that have gone through these things as well, Alan. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So my mom went back to school, got a high school diploma, got a
Bravo.
art, and moved us up through the neighborhoods basically. So so she grew up on Title IX assistance, food stamps, all that stuff. And then my grandparents stepped in, bought a house in a fairly nice neighborhood for us, and rented to us for at cost, so we could actually afford to be able to do that. And it took everybody a while to get to those situations where we could afford to kind of move in the nice neighborhoods. And very appreciated for my mom to be able to do that.
Yeah, she sounds like a fighter. She's a fighter, baby. Yeah.
And so we got into a nice neighborhood, but I still found the kids that weren't necessarily the nicest,
Okay.
And so we would run the hood. My mom was working a lot. We'd run the hood, stay out late at night, sneak out at night, doing all the stuff. And Billings was about 80,000 people when I was a kid, so we could still get in trouble.
Yep.
And so we never got in serious trouble. We had a lot of fun, I guess you could say.
Yep.
And then by the time when I got into middle school is when we had moved to that kind of nicer neighborhood. And so then I needed an identity. I was kind of a quiet kid, shy kid. I did not like to socialize, and that's something I had to learn a lot, especially through college is where it really came into effect. That's where I grew a lot. So then I went out for wrestling and got my butt kicked. And then I went out for track my 7th grade year, and I was not the fastest. My friend was the fastest on the team as a distance runner.
Oh, wow.
And his mom was my actual music teacher.
Huh.
And so I was taking music classes from her when I was in fourth grade. You know, I decided to pick up the bass, and play bass. And she's not going to like this, but I never practiced. but Mr. Jackman saw something in me, you know, and you know, music is a different type of crowd than I was hanging out with.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of got me steered a little bit away from the trouble, you know, kind of. And then, like I said, I got into middle school. Started smoking cigarettes a little bit in middle school. Yeah. So kind of going down the wrong path. And then started running. Met pretty good friends with her son. And then seventh grade track. I finally broke 6 minutes the very last meet. So I was like, okay, I might be able to become a 1,600 meter mile runner. Mm-hmm. They had cross country. I didn't know existed. Never ran cross country in middle school. Then the next year I tried to go out for basketball. Didn't make the basketball team in middle school, 8th grade. And then so I started doing track workouts. And I was pretty disciplined all up until the track season. And then I just told coach that I'm not doing track. And I just quit doing everything. I was like, oh, okay. I wanted my free time back and kind of.
You did all the pre-work. The thing that we, a lot of times as coaches, we have to beg and borrow and prod to get to do. You did that. And then you're like, I don't want the payoff.
Yeah. I don't know what it was. I was doing 16 pull-ups, so that was the highest I ever did for pull-ups. I was working out. And then I got tracks and I didn't even do it. And I was just like, I don't know why or what came over me. But then we went over to my high school and then didn't do athletics. I was a skateboarder. I had long hair.
Yeah.
Doing the neighborhood skate parks, and we didn't have skate parks. We would skate the parking garages,
right?
Get off and stuff like that. And then I did track my freshman year, and Burton Pierce, my mentor, the mustache, he saw something in me, and he encouraged me. First year, 13:30 for 3,200. Mm-hmm. Girls were beating me. Mm-hmm. And I learned a lesson about the pity clap because I was the pity clap.
Oh, yeah.
So, and to this day, it's kind of, obviously there's certain circumstances, but I don't pity clap to this day because I was so embarrassed to get the pity clap. And it's not, and I think that obviously there's different circumstances involved with that. But yeah, so I hated it. I was embarrassed, and coach, we had the last meet, the JV meet, canceled because of bad weather, and he made us a deal. We'll get you a varsity letter if you can run a PR and a time trial with the kids. Mm-hmm. I didn't do it. I didn't varsity. And actually, what I ended up getting from that last race was a stress fracture in my shin, and I got done. I couldn't put weight on, and and it took a long time to diagnose I had a stress fracture because they call it a pinhole stress fracture. So instead of going across the bone this way, it went straight through the bone like a pinhole. And I could walk for weeks, and I was on crutches, and that was demoralizing for sure. So I was done with athletics after that.
So, yeah, okay. But we know that's not true because that's exactly where my question is going. I know, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, one, because I was that at one point, and I now have a 14-year-old son. So I know, the mindset and what setbacks like the pity clap. Guess what? Yeah, same right here. But so I'm with you on that. And I'm not a fan of the pity clap either. Again, you're right. There's different circumstances. A kid falls. It's like, hey, good job. But the guy who's just not very good. Again, this guy. What are we doing? Let's move on. Let's go. Yeah. So I'm with you. You had me on my own pins and needles when you're like, if you run a PR at the last meet, you get varsity. I was like, oh, this is going to be his and this was my IPR. You're like, no, I didn't make varsity. He's like, oh my God. Okay. I feel like a roller coaster here. And then you get a stress fracture, not only a stress fracture, a weird, a unique stress fracture. You have right now at that age, this is the end of the freshman year, right?
Freshman year, and I've gone through all sorts of.
You have every excuse to be like, I'm going back to, you know what I did? I didn't have that in skateboarding, guys. I didn't have that over here in music. You have all the excuses in the world to walk away. What kept you going to it?
Coach Pierce. So he was the guidance counselor at the school, and he was obviously privy to our phone numbers. We didn't have cell phones, obviously. This is early 90s. And so he would call me once a week during the summer. Is Alan there? This is Coach Pierce. We watch out for cross country, and we run 3 miles. And I'm like, nah, not for me. I held off all summer long. I did my own thing. I was like, I'm not doing it. And then school starts going into my sophomore year, and then I get call slips every day to go see your guidance counselor. So I was getting pulled out of class once a day to go see my guidance counselor. And he was heavy in recruiting. He would recruit the hallways.
Right.
I went to West High in Billings, and we had a lot of kids. I graduated 550 in our graduating class. And we had 60 guys just on the cross country team. And his goal was always to hit 100 athletes on the cross country team. We never got there. We were like upper 80s, low 90s every year, but we never got there between men and women combined. But yeah, so I finally broke down about a week into school and said, all right, I'll come up for cross country. Just quit calling me, pulling out me class and stuff like that.
Do you think he was doing that with other kids? Like, was he calling other kids in the summer? Not the ones that he knew were on the team and was like, hey, what was your mileage this week? But the kids who were like, man, I need Tommy out there. I need Alan out there. Do you think he was calling? And then I love the call slip every day. Do you think he was doing that with other kids?
I don't know. I really don't know. I've never asked him about that.
But yeah, I think you would know though, right? Because I mean, we're talking about freshman, sophomore, junior, senior kids in high school, right? So you guys all talk.
I was not social. So I went to high school. Like I said, I grew up on the lower side, actually the south side of Billings, on the other side of the tracks, literally. And so when we got over to West High, I mean, it was doctors, lawyers, kids. Kids drive BMWs and to school, and I worked my tail off. Bought a $500, basically Ford Mustang to a Pinto, basically is what I'm driving to school. And I had to replace windshield, carpet, everything like that in order to drive the car. But yeah, so I'm not social at all with anybody really, except for a couple of kids in the art class I was with, a couple of kids that were, skateboard friends, a couple.
Would you describe yourself as and I'm not sure if this is a necessarily a derogatory mark, but are you a loner at this time?
Oh, yeah.
More at least loner leaning, maybe? Yeah, more that way.
I was really close with my brother. He's a year younger than me. So we both kind of went through the same experiences. We had some pretty good friends in middle school. So we would start from my house, we'd walk. It was like a mile and a half, mile to school. And so we'd walk from my house, we'd pick kids up along the way. So by the time we got to middle school, it was like 10 of us. So it was pretty good with those friends. But a lot of those kids, we were right on that boundary line between like senior high and West High. And so where my boundary was, I went to West High for high school, and all my friends from that age, for the most part, went to the other high school. And so I didn't really carry a lot of friends over with me. The one friend that I grew up with and hung out all the time, we took completely different paths. I mean, I went into athletics. He went into more of the vocational trades, into the other kind of like alternative school, not necessarily not alternative, but it's more of like the hands-on program. So by the time we were going through after our freshman year, he was going to basically a completely different school as well. Yeah. So basically, me and my brother, that were kind of the ones that hung out. We see each other in the hallways and stuff like that, walk to and back from school and everything. And so I was always trying to find an identity, didn't know what it would be.
Yeah.
And then cross country kind of gave me that identity.
And I think that's important. It's what we are in the muck of when we are 16, 17 years old. You nailed it. We are looking for an identity. That's why I always say when I moved, I was always like, all right, who's my tribe? Who can I trust? Who I can't? And you got to find that out real quick. That's what 16-year-olds are doing. And I think it sounds like, what year did you graduate high school?
I graduated in 99.
Okay. As I say, we sound very similar in age. I graduated in 94. So we're the same age-ish there. And so it's easy for us as, 40 plus year old guys, and everybody out there, by the way, to forget that these kids, even through college, by the way, they're searching for an identity. I think you nailed that. I think that's very true. It's important for us to remember that sometimes when we're maybe judging 16, 17, 18-year-old kids and the decisions that they're making. So, all right. So sophomore year, coach is, you talk about a recruiter. This guy is not letting up. And finally, whether he breaks the will or whatever, you succumb. You come to the cross country team.
Yeah, I succumbed to it. Do our first run, and they're like, yeah, go out for. We had this 2 to 3 mile lap, kind of around the school, and um, boom, gangbuster. Start out with the top guys, and within 800 meters, I'm the last
Don't
guy.
say, don't you tell me you just naturally killed. I was like, you died. Please tell
No,
me. Yeah,
I
yeah.
died. I died hard. And I didn't have running shoes, anything like that, and so yeah, I died hard. And a couple weeks in the season, Coach Pierce is like, you need some running shoes if you're gonna, survive a cross country season. I'm like, we don't have money,
Right.
so he bought me shoes.
Wow, dude.
He
Coach.
changed my life, really.
Yeah.
Wow. I haven't thought of these things in years, and you're bringing out memories that I suppressed, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's the role. This is an honored seat I get into because we do get to some. I mean, coaches, what you do today, Alan, is things to young people that you're carrying on the legacy of Coach and your mom, by the way, of giving value to others, caring for others, and that's an important part of this podcast is people's stories, so that you get that honor and that you get to honor those who have built who you are today. So I love this. Coach
yeah,
obviously is a huge influence.
yeah. And it's something I try and take very serious. What I'm trying to do
Absolutely.
now, just the X's and O's, like you talked about.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I bought my first pair of shoes, got me through the season. I was the last kid almost every race. But what was cool about cross country is I could hide in the woods and people could see flaps, So I could go out there and do my own thing, have fun, and not be seen the whole time like on the track.
No, Alan, you would fry your athlete if they did that today, and here you
I
were
know,
doing this.
I know. So I could go out there, I could walk, I could walk for a little bit, not get seen, but when I was in front of people, I sure was running. So that was what was cool about cross country. Um, so that's how I kind of got into it. And so same thing, the JV meet, all the Billings schools last year of the year. He has our end of the kind of season wrap up with the JV kids. He did one-on-one meetings with all the kids, and
Wow.
I'm very bad about doing that to this day, but he was awesome about doing that.
Yeah.
And so we would have a goal session before the last meet, and he'd be like, all right, so what's your goal? I mean, what do you want to do? You want to run a certain time, place? And I said, I want to get a ribbon. I want a medal.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he did this on purpose, but he was definitely a brutally honest person. He looked at me and said, Alan, that's just not realistic. You need to shoot for something else. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to prove you wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first time the whole year. I gave everything I could to that race. I dug her deeper than I ever could, and I finished 7th in the JV race. Got my
No
ribbon. I was like,
way.
proved you wrong. So that was I think he did that on purpose, honestly, because I think he probably knew it would fire me up.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, I got my
So you
ribbon.
went from walking in the woods,
Yes.
probably being one of the last people on your team, last people in the race, and that last race, you're like, you know what? I'm going to show him, and you got 7th.
7th in the JV meet. Yeah, I got my ribbon. I
Dude.
still have that ribbon up in my house.
Hell yeah. Nice. Love it. Love
Yeah.
it.
So that was awesome. That was so much fun getting that. It gave me a little taste of something that was going to happen in the future. But
Yeah. Does that fire
no, I
you up
think,
for track season? Like, are you actually like going to do
yeah,
track
yeah.
season this time?
I was not varsity, never made varsity squad, obviously that year. And after the race, we had a little meeting before our awards ceremony, which I still do. I love doing award ceremonies for my
That's
athletes,
cool.
even at the college level, just because you got to honor those kids after putting
That's
all the
cool.
hard work. And so he talked to me and he's like, hey, I want to make you a deal. I'm like, oh, okay, what's this fantastic deal you want to give me? If you agree, because I told him I wasn't going to do track. I was like, I hated track. I don't like the laps.
Nowhere to hide. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he made the deal that I will give you a varsity cross country letter, get your big W, you can go buy your letter jacket, whatever else, get that pin, if you show up to all the winter workouts and run the very first track meet. If you want to quit after that first track meet, we're good. You got your varsity letter. We're all set. I'm like, all right, perfect. And so I agreed, and we go up, and he's giving all the varsity letters, calls my name up, and everybody's like clapping, kind of look around. I remember looking around like, why is he getting a varsity letter, But I was shooting my word. Like I said, just like in middle school, I was good at the preparing stuff, but I was kind of afraid to kind of showcase it. Maybe I guess it's kind of like a secret in the back of my brain. Maybe.
Yep.
So I showed up every day. First time ever running on ice. First time ever running in snow.
Oh yeah, we are in Montana.
Yeah. So I remember running through the parking lot. It was like a half mile from school. I hit this black ice, fall down, hit my knee. Went back to school. I was like, Coach, I can't do this. Yeah, he goes, you gave me your word. You got to be back tomorrow. So I went back the next day, and I just ran through all the winter. And he made this deal with a lot of kids. He wanted his kids to come out, but I was the only kid that showed up Monday through Friday, every day, the whole winter. And so we get up to the track season. It's the first meet. It's up at Skyview High, which is up on this hilltop. It's always windy there, but beautiful school. And he signs me up for varsity for a 3,200, and I'm like, "You give me a panic attack, Coach." And he's like, "Yeah, you told me you're gonna give me one race, so I want you to run this varsity race."
You didn't say what race. I get to pick that.
Yeah. So I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So scared, panicked, and I kind of have a little bit of stage fright, especially at that age.
Yeah, sure.
And so I'm like, all right, I gave my word. So go out, not sure what's going to happen. Finish second in the varsity race. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. Immediately I get across that finish line. I ran like 10:40-ish or something like that. So I'm from 13:30 to 10:40 between my freshman and sophomore year, first race of my sophomore year. And he comes up to me right after the race. He goes, "So you want to quit?" I'm like, "Nope, I'm sold." So that's how I got. I've never really stopped. I had a couple brief periods here and there, but I just can't give it up.
I love this story about Coach because we almost called the podcast the Mythbusters podcast. I love to just bust the myths. And one of the myths out there that I'm really passionate about is that high school coaches can't coach college. And typically that's because, they can't recruit, they don't know how to coach, whatever, blah, blah, blah. This guy, he's a mastermind of the if you will, the psychology of coaching. Like he knew, maybe for lack of a better term here, what buttons to push, when and how to, like, even for him to ask that question, so do you want to quit? Like he didn't say, so you're staying on, right? Like he knew, like he needed to ask you, like, so you want to quit? Like he was giving you that almost like, see, I didn't really believe, do you want to quit? Boy, this guy's kind of a coaching Yoda, if you will.
I mean, obviously, I think very highly of him.
Yeah.
I mean, and not everybody always gonna have the same opinion of every coach. And not every coach works for everybody, but man, he worked for me and got me here. So, and even to this day, it's hard for me to realize, but I'm not going to be the best coach for everybody, even today.
That's right.
And I might not work for people, but he worked for me, and just got me going.
Again, that's another really good thing for us as coaches to kind of to remember, and also to take a step back when we're judging others. I'm a big anti-judgment person. When we talk about transfers and transfer portals and things like that, and we immediately want to say, oh, the kids, a coach yelled at them one time and they transfer. It's like, you know what? Everybody is not for everybody. I love again. I've used Mouse Holloway as a lot of examples. I love him. He's a great friend, great leader. There are people that they thought, because let's be real, in the recruiting process, the reality is not always in part of the recruiting process. That thought, this is the greatest place in the world, and they get there and like, oh yeah, no, I don't like. Mouse holds me accountable. Yeah, I'm not that. That's not me. I need to go somewhere else and maybe a little less accountability. So I think that's really important that. Thank goodness Coach was great for you and your style. I'm sure there's maybe stories, we have someone else from your high school team in here going, yeah, I just did not get along with Coach because of yada, bada, all these other things. And it's like, well, okay, someone else loved him. So that's good,
Yeah.
Okay. So finish out sophomore year, moves into junior year. How did you, so you stayed on the team, you kept your word.
I stayed on the team. So in Montana back then we had, they only took 10 athletes to the state meet. And so they would take 5 from the east, 5 from the west. And, I ran at Bozeman, speaking of which, Lyle Weiss, I got a shout out to him. I saw you did a podcast
with him. He's great, dude. Love him.
Get together in high school even, which is crazy to say.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, so we go to Bozeman High, run the meet, and I kick as hard as I could, and I missed going to state by 1 spot.
Oh, so they did like an east-west type of thing?
Yep,
Is that what you're saying?
So they took 5 from each side.
You got 6.
So I got 6. I ran 10:19,
but
as
a sophomore, who really this is like your freshman year, if you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah,
you got to feel like like you got to feel like, oh, I mean, are you, let me ask you this way. Are you, so I know you got six and you're bummed out, especially as a sophomore, and you probably aren't even supposed to be there, but you're still,
Yeah.
uh, are you starting to feel as you kind of come off that sophomore year and you start staring junior year in the face, are you starting to feel like you found your tribe a little bit at this point? Or?
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of weird, and I don't know if it's because I became an athlete or what happened, but I also started noticing that people were talking to me. I was hanging out with people, started kind of getting some friends,
Hmm.
So yeah, so I was starting to get accepted.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think the biggest social impact was going into my junior year, going into my cross country season.
Hmm.
Um, I went out and my goal was to be the top dog. I
Hmm.
wanted to be number one. I wanted to find that identity. I wanted to be, the best I could be.
Yeah.
And so I ran all summer. Nobody else ran as much as me. I was sold. I wanted to have a good cross country season. Um, and so I wanted to be, so we had to be, I can't remember, 16 or 18. I can't remember, to be all state for
Mm.
cross country. Um, and so, and bummer I didn't make it that junior year either, but I did run at state. I was our top runner. I just missed all state. Um, and there were some seniors and stuff on the team that year. Um, kind of got mad at me, basically, you could say, because all of a sudden, I was a nobody my sophomore year, and then I was a top guy. I started running like 21, 22 minute 3 miles my sophomore year,
Right.
and by my junior years, I'm running low 16s.
Right.
So all of a sudden, they're like,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
to me, I was like, so I actually made a lot of friends with the younger
Hmm.
sophomores and freshmen that year, not necessarily the juniors and seniors I was with.
Right. Yep.
So yeah, so we had a pretty good season that year for cross country, and then went on to track, and I wanted to, make state,
Hmm.
and I did everything I could all winter. Well, reverse. I did what I thought I could do, but I kind of let coach down that year, and also decided to go back out to wrestling again. So I was doing wrestling and trying to run at the same time.
Now, I'm a big advocate of multi-sport athletes. So on one hand, I'm like, yeah, cool, do what you want. It's high school. It doesn't really matter. But you are just finding your trajectory as a runner, and you decide, let me go take a hard left over here, go
And
rest.
there was a rationale behind that because our top runner, um, he was a wrestler, cross country track guy.
But you had wrestled a little bit too, and
I wrestled. I wrestled a little bit.
I remember you saying I got my butt kicked. So you
I,
had the
I
experience too.
Yep. And I wrestled a little bit my freshman year. Did go out for wrestling my freshman
Okay.
year. Got my
Okay.
butt kicked.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was tiny. I mean, I hadn't
Yeah.
really grown my freshman year. I was
Yeah.
I was wrestling under 100 pounds as a
Yeah.
freshman.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so and I just got thrown all over the place.
Yeah.
Um, but one thing that I did learn from wrestling that year was not to be afraid of releasing some emotion while you're out there as an athlete.
Yeah.
Because so I remember I started off JV just pounded, and then it's going to the second match, and he did something I didn't know what it was, but I got mad, like physically mad on the mat, and wrestling's a good spot to take that out sometimes. And so I got mad. I pinned the kid, and then I used that same aggression the whole year. And so I went undefeated the rest of the year in wrestling
Dude.
until yeah. So I was like, okay, I got to tap into this anger for this wrestling thing.
Yeah.
Um, and so then we're going in, getting ready for state, and I got a fungal virus on my hand from wrestling some kid from
Welcome.
a different
Welcome
school,
to wrestling.
and I was like, I'm out.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was my last chance, and so I did disappoint Coach Pierce quite a bit with that because obviously he had big plans for me. I'm just missing state as a sophomore. I did run faster. I ran 10:06 that year in the 3200, but I missed state by 2 places that time. Everybody kept getting better.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that was the heartbreak year right there, that junior track season. And
Yeah.
so then
Any, and maybe this is kind of a two timeline question.
okay,
When you get seventh, so think about what you thought of as a junior when you got seventh and didn't make it. The question is the same for both these timelines. Did you regret going to wrestling? So when you got seventh as a 16-year-old junior year, a 16, 17-year-old kid, did you have regrets? And now, because what we have now is we have perspective, right? We're 40-year-old guys. We can look back, and now when you look back at it, do you have regrets? So you see, did you have regret then, and do you have regret now?
Um, I would say yes today and back then because
Same.
I mean, yes, it taught me how to use some aggression as an
Yeah,
athlete,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but like we talked about Coach Pierce, I think he was a mastermind. He would have got that out of me no matter what. So I think if he would have had that extra winter training year with me actually fully bought in, he would have pulled even more out of
You
me.
had figured it out. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I was gonna say, you did learn something from it. So
Yeah,
I,
for
I
sure.
could see as the 17-ish-year-old kid, right? Because we're young, we're emotional, gosh, I got six last year, and now it's seventh. Am I getting worse? You start putting all these things in your head. What I shouldn't have done wrestling. Now as a 40-year-old, you can look back like, well, maybe who I am today, so it's okay. But yeah, I can see where the draw of the coach too there. Like, man, if I could have just stayed on the coach train, we might have been okay there. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I think he would have. I think what I did my senior year would have happened my junior year, and then I could have gotten even faster as a.
That's a great tease. So what happened senior year?
So senior year, end up breaking 15 a couple times.
Wow.
So yeah, so that was fun. Obviously, we're running on a home course. It's pancake flat, and there's no. I mean, the hill is like a 5 foot raise and a bridge across a little stream. That's it.
Right.
So yeah, but yeah. So then I was confident that year. I mean,
Mhm.
I won meets. I'd never won a race until
You,
that
you
year.
didn't go to wrestling senior year.
Nope, nope,
Got
nope, nope. So cross country was awesome.
mhm.
Um, so going into my senior year, I was like, I'm a big goal guy, high achieve, shoot for the stars, and then the saying goes, if you don't hit the stars, you're gonna land on the moon. You're still gonna be up there, type thing.
Mhm.
So I wanted to win state. I wanted to run the fastest in school history.
That's a pretty big goal for a guy who's never made it to state. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And so we get to the state meet, and
Wait, so you qualified?
oh yeah,
Don't
yeah.
skip over that. You hadn't qualified yet. That's
Okay, yeah.
cool.
So let's go
Good.
ahead. So this is where some of the leadership, as far as a coach, I think, started playing into my thing,
Mm.
because we had morning practice. If you were going to be varsity, it didn't matter if you're a JV kid or not. You had to attend morning practices, even if you're the number one guy. If you didn't show up to morning practice, you weren't going to run varsity that week.
Mhm.
And so I was doing that sophomore year, junior year, and going to my senior year. I was like, guys, we got to take these morning practices seriously. And what I mean is, we would go about 3 blocks away from the campus, and there's this overhang on a church, and we'd take a nap for about a half hour. And
Jeez.
then we'd run back to campus. And so going into my senior year, because like I said, I had made friends with those juniors and the younger kids, and I was like, guys, we're not going to do that. We're going to do what coach says. We're going to put everything into this. And so my senior year, we're not taking naps for the morning runs. We're taking the workouts. We're doing drop off runs. That came into my effect. I remember, my junior year in track, we would run to a friend's house, one of the teammates, and we'd go hang out. And then to make us look like we were sweaty, we'd throw water in the armpits, and So yeah, obviously
Fooling
he knew.
nobody, by the way. Yeah, as I was saying, fooling nobody, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he knew because we're coming back. We're fine. We're not flush. We don't have red faces, but we got sweat stains. So he knew. But yeah, so it's. I mean, we're 14, 15-year-old kids. We don't want to go out and run 8 miles.
Right.
Um, but I don't know what he saw in me, but I think he knew I might be a leader someday. But yeah, so I made sure we did everything he asked.
Wow. That's good.
So we had gone to state as a team.
Mhm.
Um, junior year, I finished, I think, just outside All State. I didn't get All State. And so my senior year, we're like looking around. We're like, we might be pretty good this year in cross country. And so we go to state meet, and we run our tails off, and we finished third in the state as a team. We hadn't got a plaque in a long time, so that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
And so then those same kids, they're all younger than me. Yeah, and we had one other guy that was my age, and they're all sophomores and juniors, and guys, you're showing up all winter with me. We're gonna work. We're gonna work, and it worked pretty good. I mean, by the time I got to track, I was getting beat by my own teammates in some races, and so, and so then yeah. So by the time we finished that year, we had 5 guys break 10 in the 3200. That was pretty cool.
Wow.
So yeah, so that was pretty cool. But so I'm a kid that had never made a state meet in track, and I got beat by one of my teammates at a meet midway through the season. I was pretty upset, and so I convinced all the freshmen around me because they kind of looked up to me, I think. And I said, hey, we're gonna do a 4x4. We're gonna do the JV 4x4 for fun. I'm not a speed guy. I wasn't a speed guy, but I used that aggression. I was pretty upset. I ran like a 52 split. I opened up and I handed off. We were first, and I was like, wow, that was crazy. I was, kind of fun to get the aggression out. And then the head track coach is like, hey, you just made 4x4 team. So, so I went from running. I was a mile or 2 mile, and all of a sudden, every meet after that, after 3,200, I was running a 4x4.
Wow.
So yeah, and then ended up making state in all three as well. So we go to state in the mile. I remember the mile. I was like, got dead last. I got 10 kids. I got dead last. I still ran a 4:32 mile. Altitude Montana. That's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
And then state the 3,200. Kind of traumatic story, and I love to share this with my kids because I try to tell them it's okay to be embarrassed sometimes, and when we all make mistakes. I get to the start line. I don't have my running shorts on. I'm starting to take my pants down, and I just have my little briefs on.
Shut up.
And I'm like, they're calling us to start. So one of my teammates is across he was an alternate, and so he was all dressed up in his kit, and we had to change right by the start line, and I put my shorts on and took off.
Oh.
So that you learn to get rid of modesty. You look great.
Yeah.
Like that. So I ended up finishing getting all state, and so I got all state for cross, finished sixth in cross, finished sixth at state in 3,200, and so so for a kid that couldn't even run a mile to becoming an all state runner, it was pretty cool.
Well, I love the story. I love the from freshman year to sophomore year, the huge change, and it just made me think about like, wow, 1 year, like what so many things can change in 1 year. Like literally 1 year from your freshman sophomore year was a huge leap. But then even from there to your senior year, again, just another huge leap. And that's a short amount of time. I know it's our whole high school career, but it's a short amount of time in our lives. Just the the kid who loves I won't say loves cross country, liked cross country because he could go and hide in the woods, to the guy who as a senior and junior says, hey, boys and girls, all right, we're done with the sleeping on the runs, we're done with the splashing the pool water, we're done. We're gonna buy in. Like that gives like that should give coaches like so much hope that they got this this squirrely kid who's just what do they say, grab assing around, and it's like, what, that kid could be your leader in a very short amount of time. By the way, don't give up on them, keep pressing into them. That's a great story.
Yeah.
All right, Alan, it's senior year, so we're thinking about college and next year and maybe running. I don't hear necessarily, even though you have a great relationship with coach and you have come into your own as a leader for sure your senior year, I'm not necessarily hearing like, I want to be a coach at this point.
No.
Yeah. So
No.
talk to me about what were you thinking about for college, and whether running was going to take a part of that, and what were you thinking at this age, this 18-year-old high school senior, of majoring in and become like, I want to become an astronaut, a businessman, whatever. What were you thinking at that point?
I was not thinking college at all. I'm the only one in my family to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
I have cousins that have gone to college and gotten degrees now, but at the time, nobody in my family had even thought about college as an option. And so my coach was the one kind of spearheaded that for me.
Yep.
So he actually took me to college tours in his car and stuff like that. So we about halfway through the year, cross country is done, and I started getting some phone calls. I was like, who, from where? And so like, oh, okay. And so Coach Pierce, he took me over to University of Montana to tour, Montana State to tour, Gonzaga to tour, and they were offering me walk-on spots, $500 books, and I have no money to do that.
Right.
So I'm like, this is not going to happen, Coach. I don't think it's, in the cards for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he kind of expanding his search, and I started getting calls from schools in North Dakota, South Dakota, some surrounding states. I mean, obviously recruiting now is a lot different. You can find athletic.net is amazing. We didn't have that back then.
Right.
And so basically it's a lot of legwork back in. My coach trying to send kids off and trying to find good options. And so We had a D2 in town that was offering a really good package, and I could live at home, but they only had cross country.
Mhm.
And I wanted the track element, and some of that's some of the coaches you've interviewed for kind of alluded to that. It's hard to have a successful program for playing cross.
Mhm.
And I was a prime candidate. I was not going to go someplace where I couldn't do sport year round. And so then I got a couple good offers from Jamestown up in North Dakota, Dakota Wesleyan, Black Hill State talked to me a little bit. I chased the money. Whoever gave me the most money is where it's going to go. It's all I had to do. No research really on the coaching, no research on the school. Yeah, I mean, basically, it's kind of like the Jerry Maguire spot. Show me the money, and that's where I'm going to go. And so that's what I did. I chased the money. I went to a school called Dakota Wesleyan out in South Dakota.
Yeah.
World famous Corn Palace. If anybody does not know what that is, you got to look up the Corn Palace.
Yep.
But yeah, so I went out there, drove me and my high school buddy from the team. We went to the same school. He actually signed with Jamestown, and then I chose Dakota Wesleyan. He decommitted from them, decided to come with me. So he got two of us for the price of one, I guess. But yeah, so we drive over to. I'd never visited the school, didn't know anything about it.
Right.
I didn't know anything about South Dakota. I'd never been out there. Get there, and it's like, I would say it's probably 95 degrees, about 85% humidity, and I'm like, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
And we're living in a dorm. It's called Allen Hall. Not spelled the same way, but it was probably built in probably the 1970s. No AC, nothing like that. 10 by 10. The dorm was probably the size of my office. And we're just sweltering in there. And then we go out to dinner. I think it was like Perkins, something like that. And people that had never been to the Midwest or the South at night when the bugs come out around the lights, that was a new experience. I mean, I'm out there, and it's just like a cloud of bugs hovering around every light in the entire town. And I was like, uh-oh, I might be in trouble here.
Like freaked you out a little bit. Yeah.
It did. But I had no idea what I wanted to do for a degree. My degree was running. I was just going to go there, run as long as I could, and just have fun.
So no, like, I want to be a teacher. Nothing, no direction as far as academics and
the only thing. So what I put down on my major was biology.
Okay.
Because growing up, I loved animals. I would go out and I'd catch snakes and lizards and turtles. I would make terrariums and do all this fun stuff with animals. So I was like, I'm going to be a vet or zoologist. That sounded like that'd be fun. I'm going to hang out with animals all day.
Right.
Until you take classes for it and things change.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was a biology major, going to go become a zoologist or a vet or something like that. But really, I went to school to run. That was plain and simple.
So talk to us about college as a whole then, as far as, give us we don't need to go year by year necessarily on the athletics, but so talk to us about, you had a great relationship with high school coach. Talk to us about your experience with the coaches in college, and you had to get somewhere guided on your academics at some point.
Yeah. So academically, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Struggled a little bit school wise. I was mid 2s, 2.2 GPA my freshman year. My coach was very nice man, but never had the same relationship. A little bit of different training philosophy as well. I feel like I spent more time injured than I was healthy in college. I was actually running less miles than I did in high school, but the intensity was a lot higher than I'd run.
Sure.
And my body was just not suited for that. I had these problems, knee problems, something every year would flare up. Still did all right. Never made my goal being All-American. I qualified for nationals 7 times, but never got on that big podium thing.
Dude.
But yeah, so very up and down college career. Like I would just start getting there, and then something could derail it, get hurt, something like that. Freshman year, I was a straight arrow type guy coming out of high school. In middle school, I was not.
Right.
I was drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes in middle school. High school, never touch it. I was like, I bought into coach's plan, straight and narrow. Went through cross country, had a letdown at conference, started getting into the partying, socializing, that type of stuff for a little bit. freshman 15 came on pretty quick within about a month and a half, 2 months of when I started doing that. And then pretty shortly, I woke up one morning. I tell my kids this, but I woke up one morning. I was hungover on my dorm floor. I always ran. I never stopped running. And I remember on that run realizing, like, I do not want to feel like this. I do not want to end up like this. Well, there was lots of drinking in my family history. I don't want to become an alcoholic. And so I just, from that day, I was like, boom, I'm done.
Wow.
So then I had no friends when I first got to college, started partying, had a ton of friends, and then no friends, all within that freshman year.
Yeah. Hey, you should be commended on getting to that realization early, though.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us do come to that realization, but it's two, three, four. Sometimes something happens, a major thing happens. So to be able to come to that fairly early, that's a good thing. That's a good sign of maturity levels and things like that. So that's good.
Yeah. So like I said, I think I try and guide my kids to not go that route,
Mhm.
but we're college athletes, we're college kids. It's happening. It's almost unavoidable. I
Yeah,
try and
for
preach
sure.
to my kids, tell them my experience, and you're going to gain some weight. You're going to slow down. You're not going to enjoy your athletic as much.
Right.
Your school's going to suffer. A lot of things suffer when you get involved in that.
Yep.
I try and be that wise and old man now, but it doesn't always work. But hopefully, eventually, come around to me.
Right.
But yeah, so I did qualify for nationals after I stopped the drinking stuff.
Yep.
And at that time, it was my sophomore year. So because I screwed up, I had to take some classes after my freshman year. So I stayed in town, took a couple classes, started getting my grades back around, and that's where my wife comes in. Wow, you're bringing back memories that are crazy. So she's a local girl, local farm girl, and she also grew up pretty poor income, so we
Mhm.
connected. And we just kind of hit it off right away. And she had a boyfriend for about 5 years at the time. And
Wow.
yeah, so we just kind of hit it off, and she's very influential in what kind of helped me keep me straight and narrow too, because you got to
Yeah.
have someone behind you supporting you, and that's willing to be sacrifice a lot for a coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember going into my sophomore year. I'm a nerd at the time about running, and
Mhm.
so I talk about running all the time. And that's not, just so you guys know out there, that's not the way to pick up girls to
I was
talk
about to
about
say,
running.
God bless her. That's the first thing I thought of.
So it's not the way to pick up girls, just so you know. But that's what I thought and talked about 24/7. But she put up with me, and she actually was home for the summer. Went to a different school over in Minnesota, and she was off at school, and she came up to Washington, North Dakota, to come watch me run. And she tells me this afterwards, obviously, but she drove up by herself from her college, and she is nervous because she's like, what if this kid who I've just met, we're kind of hitting it off, kind of becomes serious, what if he talks about running and thinks about running and runs all the time and sucks? And so she was nervous. Um, Luckily, I was top 10. I did okay, and so yeah, so she was, yeah, so she's like, okay, at least she's passionate about something he's pretty good about.
Did she have
Um,
any kind of track background? Did she run in high school or anything? No, but she knew the sport at least. Like she knows.
any athletics? Nothing.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. All
yeah,
right. She just
yeah.
knows sucks and not sucks. That's
Yep. That's kind of what it was. And she just, and so yeah. And obviously I was nervous to have her come watch me for the first time.
sure, sure, sure.
Yeah, I did all right. Finished top 10, and and I guess the stars went from there. And
So
that
cool.
semester, we got an apartment together, moved in together, and she moved
Wow.
back home, I guess. And yeah, that's where we started dating, and
Very
eventually
cool.
led to over 20 years of marriage now.
Wow, that's so cool. That's a great story. I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
but she was super supportive all the way through.
Yeah.
There'd be mornings where you don't want to wake up and get those 13 miles in. She would kick me
Hmm.
out of bed.
That's
And
awesome.
she actually became a bus driver for the team, a van driver, and so she would drive vans for us. Yeah, she was awesome. She's
Huh.
still awesome, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
So great
That's
there.
cool.
So she was supportive all the way back then and still
Yeah.
today. I mean, she's
And at this point, I'm still not hearing anything that's like, oh, and you know what? When you said you were a nerd in running, I started thinking like, oh, is this where he's going to say like, so I started paying attention to work. I'm still not hearing coaching.
no.
Yeah. Okay.
No, 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 no.
All right. Keep us going.
And I did not get into coaching until I started coaching.
Okay.
And I got into coaching by mistake. I still believe it was a mistake I got into coaching.
So let's go there, but let's finish out college.
Yeah.
So you finish out. What did you end up getting a degree in?
So I had low 2.0, didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
When undecided, I took a class called animal development. Was failing it halfway through. Had to withdraw, and then I took a history class. I hated history in high school. Fell in love with my history professors. Two great history professors.
Huh.
Dr. Flynn, he's written several books about South Dakota history, everything like that. Dr. McLeod, he passed away a few years ago. Both, authors. I mean, this is a small school of like 800 kids, and you got two history teachers that are known around the country on the History Channel talking at this little tiny college.
Cool.
And obviously I was passionate about running, they were passionate about history, and it was just kind of good mirror. And I just picked up history, and I was like, I'm gonna do history. And so about that same time, there's a little museum, Dakota Discovery Museum, that across the campus, and for insurance purposes, in the upstairs part of the museum, they have an apartment set up so the building could be insured. They had to have a resident up there. And so I actually got to live in a museum, upstairs part of the museum, for a couple of years in college. And I worked for the Dakota's Discovery Museum, doing archives in the basement.
Cool.
So cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's called the Beckwith House. So if anyone wants to look what the Beckwith House looks like, I lived in a mansion in college, but I lived in the servants' quarters. So we had a clawfoot bathtub, no shower. So we took baths every day. Yeah. So yeah, it was such a cool experience. So me and my girlfriend at the time lived in there. Cheap rent, $200 a month. I could walk. I didn't have a car. My car blew up my freshman year of college, and so I could walk back and forth to campus. Tip to anybody that's in college that doesn't know how to make it work for the cafeteria. Free food every time you work. So I worked all 3 meals every day.
Smart.
So yeah, so we just made it work.
Yeah.
And like I said, similar backgrounds, low income, so we're not going to spend lots of money. Even to this day, we're pretty frugal about that.
Right.
Which is probably why we could make coaching work and
yeah. That's right.
Teacher,
pick the right profession.
And, and we think we lived a high life just because of how we grew up.
Right.
So you can make it work as long as you don't buy the new cars and stuff.
That's
like
right.
that.
Yeah, no joke about that. So did you get a history degree? Is that what you?
I got a history degree.
Okay.
And the goal was to be a curator of a museum.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're living it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I went from a low 2 point to graduating college with a 3.6.
Dude, get out.
It was a lot of work to get there.
You talk about finding your path, man. It's one thing, I think our experiences create who we are today. So like on one hand, I want to say like, oh man, Alan, if you could have just found history in high school, even like, oh, what could have been or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think you had to go through this journey to find it. And that's so cool, man. That's what a turnaround academically and in life, honestly. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I love my classes. My Dr. Flynn called me comeback kid in my historical research and writing class because my first product was not the greatest, and because that whole class there's 2 assignments. You had to get your idea and kind of do like that, and then the finished product was your assignment, and it had to be citable, be able to publish in a works.
Did you keep in touch with Coach from high school, Brunson? I think you said.
Burton Pierce, Coach
Pierce. Did you keep in touch with him?
Oh, we keep in touch. So he.
I'm talking. Stay in college for me. When you're going through a lot in college, were you in any kind of communication with him?
Not a lot. No, I only went back twice. I was in college for 5 years. I did the 5-year plan. Mm-hmm. I had to figure things out.
Yep.
But when I would go back, I would go run with the team. I'd go see him. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we're still in the age where there's no cell phones.
Yeah, right. It's harder. Yeah.
So,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's not. Emails came in existence, but I'm not. Yeah. And so the communication is not like
that's
what
fun.
It is today.
So you get a history degree. You're thinking you're going to go become a museum creator. So what's the first step? Do you actually go to work for a museum to start, or because coaching's not there at all? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was working in that museum, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I could do this. But as the backup plan was, what else do you do with history besides if you're not a curator? What do you do? Well, you got
Teach.
to teach.
Yeah.
And so I got secondary education as a minor.
Mhm.
And so that was a backup plan. And one of the things that my wife Rebecca and I kind of hit it off was we both wanted to experience Alaska sometime in our life.
Huh.
And so so I got my degree. She is an elementary teacher. And like, well, let's go teach in Alaska after college.
Wow.
So in '04, right before we graduate, we go over to Minneapolis. We do an Alaska job fair together. And we get hired by school district up in Alaska to be a teacher. She was middle school, I was high school. So we do that. We graduate in May, get married in June, and move to Alaska. And so we're thrown in, and kind of a common thread in my life is I'm okay doing adventure, sight and scene. So I went to college, sight and scene.
Right.
We went up to Alaska, sight and scene.
Right.
I took a job I'm at now, sight and scene. You know, so yeah. So, but yeah, so we were up in Alaska. I spent 2 years up there teaching. I was the high school. I taught 4 grade levels of math, 4 grade levels of writing. So it was, yeah.
Small, like super small.
Yeah, this right here.
Yeah.
That's my high school.
That's the high school.
Yeah.
Holy, he just showed us,
Right
if you're listening to us on audio, he just showed us a picture of, I don't think there was more than 8, 9 people there. Holy.
Correct, yeah. There are 12 kids in the high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude.
So they're all.
I feel like you love that though. I don't know why. I just feel like that, like kind of that hustle and bustle, and you got a lot of stuff going on. I feel like that was kind of your jam, your groove there.
And I'm pretty sure my wife found this out pretty early in our relationship. I'm pretty sure I have ADHD or some form of that and I think running was always self-medicating for me. In a way, I guess you could say.
Did you keep running for not for like maybe, but not necessarily for competitive purposes, but did you keep running? Like, did you keep like were you the guy who would wake up and go run 5 miles before work?
So I tried. So by the time I was done my college career, I had been hurt so much and so disillusioned with running. I was just like, the most fun for me at that age was I love to compete and try and win and be the best I could be.
Right.
And when I was hurt and I couldn't do that, I couldn't train. I never felt like I ever got everything I got on myself, and I was pretty much done with running after college.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm retired.
That makes sense.
We got to Alaska. So what was it? It was 5 planes and a boat to get to our village.
Holy.
Yeah. So it's a 2-mile boat ride from one side of the river to the other, and they have a boardwalk. We lived in the tundra, and so I started running a little bit, and I'd run back and forth for 20, 30 minutes, on the boardwalk, and that's hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the principal said, "Hey, you ran in college. I see you out there running, so you want to start cross country?" I'm like, "Okay, sure." And so my cross country practice is the kids would load up the boat, and I taught. I was in middle school and high school cross country, so I'd load the boat, drive the 2 miles over to the other side to the sand pits. We'd run around there, drive the boat back to
the boat.
Yeah. So for our transportation, we had a school boat to get back and forth.
Not a school bus, a school boat.
So we had a school boat, and then we'd fly from there to the competitions. And what we'd do is we'd usually leave the day before. We'd go to the school. We'd sleep in the gym floor, the classroom floor, and sleeping bags, compete, and then fly back the next day.
Think about that next time we want to complain about how hard it is to get to a track meet or something.
Yeah,
Holy.
So that's what we had during the warm weather, and then once the river froze over, we had, it's a snow machine, but up there it's a snow-go with a sled that you'd put the kids on, and you'd drive the snow-go across the river. They'd be bumping down on the ice to get to
there.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I coached cross country, started that up, coached Lego Robotic League.
That's cool. When you're coaching, a lot of times, most of the time, when we first start coaching, we coach how we were coached. That's all we know, right? Until we start getting a coaching education and peer conversations, things like that. So usually my question is like, so did you kind of fall back to either how Coach Pierce or college? But you're in such a unique area, like it feels like you would almost have to have created it out of thin air anyway. Like no matter what you did in high school or college, it doesn't feel like
Yeah.
you can just automatically translate that to this situation.
Yeah, no, so basically, I mean, we had some pretty athletic kids. I mean, because basketball's huge up in Alaska because it's an indoor sport, and they're really good hoopers, and they can
Right.
shoot threes, and they can run back and forth.
Right.
So I had some endurance, but we didn't do intervals. We
Yeah,
didn't
that's
do
what I'm
those.
not talking about the athleticism.
We just went and
I'm talking
ran.
about just where you could even practice and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no 3 mile loops for crying out loud because there's
No, no,
rivers
no,
and
no,
plane
no.
rides in between it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
All right,
So
so
basically, I'm running with the kids, having fun. That's all I'm
yeah,
doing.
so let's keep moving forward. So I think I heard you say you spent 2 years in Alaska.
2 years of Alaska.
Why leave and where to?
So, a couple things happened pretty big that second year. Two guys that I ran against in college qualified for Olympic trials, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I beat those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I can't let them do that. So I started getting a little bit of fire in there. Um, After my first year, um, I was not a very pleasant person to be around because I quit running.
Mm-hmm.
My wife actually bought a treadmill for me and put it in the in the house and
Get
said,
on there.
"You got to run." So I was starting to log some miles on the treadmill.
Yeah.
Um, so that made my mood better, obviously. And then one of our coworkers, they were so everything's built up on stilts, kind of like you would see on the coast down in Florida, something like
Mhm.
that. But they're built in the tundra. They dig down, so they can get solid ground. Because everything shifts and sinks in tundra so much.
Right.
And so the school's up on the stilts, and when the snow in Alaska up there, it's basically it, envision being in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, where it's super flat, and then imagine flatter.
Mhm.
So it is super flat, and so any ounce of snow piles up around all the buildings, and so basically giant mounds of snow
Right.
would collect around the buildings, and so I would go out and carve stairs in the snow and stuff like that so we can get to school. And we lived in an apartment that had no running water or anything like that. So we did the real
Oh,
roughnecking stuff.
man.
Um, and so, but the other teachers, they lived in this other complex that had running water, smaller apartments, but they had running water. And we wanted a bigger place without running water, so we wanted to kind of stretch our legs, I guess.
That's a tough choice, honestly.
Yep, yep. And so she was walking to school. She was pregnant at the time and slipped and broke her leg in 3 spots. And she was stuck there for a week because the weather was so bad. And so we were
Oh
like, oh my
no.
gosh. And so they finally flew her out, successful, good, she was gone for the rest of the year, something like that. And we were at the point where like, we want to have children. We don't know if we want to do that just in case. And that was a hard decision. I love those kids, man.
Yeah.
We flew down, we resigned. I still keep in touch with all those kids all the time, which is cool.
Oh, that's cool.
So we fly down, quit our jobs. That was a hard one because I love those kids so much. Every one of those kids went on to get a degree of some sort.
That's awesome. That's cool.
So we fly down. We moved in my brother's basement. He's renting the same house I grew up in as a child.
Okay.
So I go back basically into my childhood bedroom with my wife, and basically I convinced my wife that I needed to run again, and I wanted to try and go after going to the trials. And so she agreed, and we moved to my brother's basement back in Billings, Montana.
Wow.
He was going to be a full-time runner, and she was going to support me, and she got a teaching job. And so I started just basically running and running by myself solo. There's nobody there to train with.
Right.
Kind of what gets me into coaching, honestly. And so I have a breakout race. It took me a while. It took me a couple of years. I had a breakout race. I finished top 10 at California International Marathon.
So when you say she's supporting you being a runner, so are you literally during that time you're running? You're not
Yeah.
working?
So I'm running. I'm working odd jobs here and
Yeah,
there.
same odd jobs, right? But you're not
Yeah.
you're not teaching, you're not
No, I'm not teaching. Yeah.
is
So talk about support.
is your wife a saint?
Yes.
Holy. I mean, I know some, my wife, I love my wife, very supportive. if I told her, "Hey, I'm going to quit Gill and I want to become a professional podcaster, and it may take 2 or 3 years,"
Yeah,
I mean, I think
yeah,
she'd be
yeah. It's
like, "All
crazy,
right,
right?
I love you, but no, like, what do you mean?" I mean,
Right, right.
dude,
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. You can't do anything in this world without support, and to have that behind you is crazy.
wow,
So she was teaching. She got a teaching job, which is really hard to do in that school district. So the fact that she got a job is amazing because everyone wants to go to Billings from all the small areas
right,
around.
right, right,
There's not much around it besides small towns.
right.
And so I'm running, and then my uncle has a lawn service business. So then I start working with him.
Right.
And so basically, I'm running anywhere from 80 to 120 miles a week.
Are you? Again, I know you have some background with Coach Pierce, but that's mile and 2 mile stuff in cross country. You have some background from being coached in college, but you're doing marathon training. That's a different. Are you reading? Are you at this time you can maybe find some things online. What are you like?
Yeah,
You can't just be like every day I'm waking up and running 20 miles, right? Like you had to have
yeah,
start some kind of program.
yeah. I'm reading. I'm reading stuff. Runner's World.
Yeah, Runners World,
Um,
Galloway. What? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Galloway. When I was in college, I wrote a couple of my own programs based off of some Galloway stuff back in the day because I felt like I need that little extra, which maybe would have caught, which probably helped me get injured a little bit in
Yeah,
college.
I'm glad you
Um,
said that. Okay, good, good, good.
but I think my college experience for me today, academically, was the best thing I could have ever done.
Yeah,
Athletically, not so much.
yeah, yeah,
So I love that college to this day because
yeah, yeah.
I would have went to a big school. I guarantee I would have flunked out.
Right, 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 right. Yeah, yeah.
So small college situation, something to be said
So
for
after
sure.
2 years, you had a breakthrough. So you're top 10 at the California
Yeah, I
International,
finished
right?
ninth at California International Marathon.
What kind of time?
Not very fast. 2:29.
Yeah, okay. Well,
I mean,
you're saying not very fast in the scope of like,
yeah,
the world record's 2 hours or whatever, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
229 for by the way, not an I mean, let's be real here. There's plenty of
Yeah,
kids who are All-American in whatever division, doesn't matter, that can't run 229. So I mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're a little overachieving at this point
Yeah.
in relation
So,
to your
so,
background.
so the background to that race is, my goal is always break 2:30. That's all I cared about. I want to break 2:29. It was my first marathon. I ran the marathon twice in college, as in the NAI we have that.
Right.
Um, and so I was like, I just want to break 2:30. We wake up that morning, terrible weather, wind, rain, everything like that. And I woke up that morning, and the mindset was, I don't care what the weather is, I'm still running 2:29. So
Nice.
I go out at 2:29 pace. Kenyans, Ethiopians, they do their thing, they take off. Boom. And I'm about 20 miles in, all of a sudden I see all these people walking along the road. And it's, some Kenyans, some of the top guys that took off way ahead of me. And so I finish, I clasp my calf cramp up, and they pick me up and they take me into the elite runner suite and they start giving me massages and breakfast and food. And I'm like,
You're like
what's
you got the
going
wrong
on?
guy, I think.
I had bib number like something like 7,000 something something something. I just signed up and I finished top 10 and I'm like, what's going on? So yeah, I was one place away from winning prize money, and I was just like, this is
Ooh,
crazy.
that kind of whets that appetite a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit.
yeah. And
Mm.
so this was '07, and so I hadn't really got into coaching yet or anything like that. So I had that breakout race, and I got a call from the college in town, no, Rocky Mountain College, and small NAI school, and it's actually oldest school in Montana, which is pretty cool to say. But they said, "Hey, we got your name from Dave Kopic, who was the coach at MSU Billings, who was the other college in town, and then Tony Banovich, who was a kind of like a local legend runner in town. He worked at the hospital, and they said, they said you should be a good one to talk about maybe starting a cross country program here.
Huh.
Like, coach? I don't want to coach.
Yeah.
And then I went on a run with those two guys, and they're like, "Yeah, we really think you should do it. I think you could be a good coach." And I was like, well, "Okay." So I went and did my interview. Yeah, I said I'll take it and do it, and it was a little stipend, $6,000 a year.
But you were taking it as one of those like odd jobs, meaning you were still going
Yeah,
to be running. Yeah, 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 yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna be running. I was gonna go to Olympic trials. That was the
Right.
whole.
That's right. That's right.
Um, and so I took on that task, and my first year, I put flyers up around the campus. We're starting cross country. Come join us. That spring, I think I got hired in April, and by the end of April, we had before the kids went home for the summer. I had like 4 kids show up,
Yeah.
meet the coach type thing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
dang, we're gonna be in trouble. Um, Luckily, I had a young lady show up that becomes something pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
Um, and she helped obviously the recruiting process go pretty well for me down the road. But it was a cross country only school,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all they're gonna do. $6,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I go through that first season, and this girl Amber, she starts off 23 minutes for a 5K, nothing special. Um, she gets down, and then she gets down to breaking 20 within a year. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, you might have something. And so we talked and said, hey, this is what I think you could do to get better. And she goes on to run. She wins conference by a minute, runs 17:38 for a 5K, and I'm like, this is cool.
Wow.
Watching that happen. But basically, my sole purpose of coaching that first couple of years to recruit people for me to train with. I mean,
It's
I'm a
funny.
selfish athlete. I was
It's funny.
trying to.
I was going to ask you, and I kind of held back because I was like, no, I think that's a generalization. I was going to say, my fear with marathoners who coach distance is they train them as marathoners when, the longest event we have in track is a 10K, and that is still 100 miles away from being a marathon. But so I literally in my head, I was like, yeah, I shouldn't have. That's a very anti-distance type of question. And then you go out and say, yeah, I was trying to recruit training partners.
Like I didn't have them run 20 miles with me and stuff like that, but
Sure, sure,
but
sure.
I was out there doing the workouts with them. I mean, I was
Yeah,
writing
I get you.
workouts for them,
Yeah,
specifically for 5Ks
yeah,
and stuff like that. But I was still wanting people to run with,
sure,
'cause,
sure. That's funny.
I mean, it's a lonely life being a distance runner out there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's what it was. And then so I think it was, and then all of a sudden my wife's pregnant, and I'm like, odd jobs ain't gonna cut anymore.
Yeah.
So I applied for
This
a
is number
job on
two.
campus.
Number two, right?
My first child.
I thought I thought you said in Alaska she was pregnant, she broke her leg.
No, that was a coworker.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, that was
okay.
a coworker. And we were deciding to have children, so we decided to move
You,
out.
you did say when we were deciding to
Yeah,
have child, I was like, she's already pregnant, Alan. Y'all too late for that. Okay, no, I'm with you. Okay, okay.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
So
Sorry.
yeah,
Okay.
so we moved out to Billings, and
So
then
now she's
uh,
pregnant. Things get real.
things get real. And so then I'm like, okay, now how am I going to make things meet?
Six thousand
Mowing
don't six
lawns,
thousand don't buy diapers.
6,000 ain't gonna cut it anymore. So I luckily there was a job open in the admissions department, admissions counselor for the PA program. So I took on that job. Uh, it was an interesting experience. Suit and tie, basically job every day. 20, 26, 27 years old, interviewing people that are 30, 40 years old, maybe come to PA,
Oh
and I'm
wow.
their admissions counselor, and I
Yeah.
had to revamp the whole admissions process, and it was a lot of work. Um, but at that point, I was like, okay, how do I get into coaching more and less of the guidance counselor? Because
Hmm.
they were helping me, and so I made this big proposal, submitted. I can get, I told them I'd get 15 guys and I'd get 30 athletes for cross country and distance track. As long as we can add track to the thing,
Right.
I can attract those kids because I'm not going to track the kids. And so I went with the vice president, made the proposal, the athletic director, I budget line everything like this is how we can do it so we can make it because I mean small liberal arts schools are very driven by how many
Admissions.
you can
Yeah.
get in,
Yep.
um, and nobody's getting basically full rides at those
Right.
places, and
Yeah.
they agreed to it, and so then I was able to actually recruit some pretty good kids pretty quick.
Hmm.
So I brought 42 in that next year. I had 42 kids on cross country the next year. And then we started moving up the ranks in conference. And then by the time before I left there, we were top 25 in both NAI for men and women.
Dude.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
So how many years there at Rocky Mountain?
Oh, how many years would that be? I'd say 6, 7 years.
So pretty quick turnaround. I mean, literally from, I don't want to say nothing,
Something,
that's
yeah.
something, but very, very small to a, top 25. Any coaching education you're doing besides, so to me, I take coaching education two ways. There's formal and informal.
Yeah.
Formal is our USATF level ones, USTF CCA, Altus, things like that. Very important. Informal is I'm going to the library, reading a book, or I'm calling a peer. You don't even really have any peers necessarily. Like, I can't see who you would call,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
didn't have peers. I talked to Dave, the other coach in town, a little bit
Uh-huh.
about
Oh,
it.
right, 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 right. Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, they were a cross country only team, and then so
And you had a track, right?
and then I started having a track team. We had no facilities. Don't get me wrong,
Hmm.
we had no facilities, nothing there for it,
Right.
but we started adding it.
Yeah.
I was reading a lot. So I wasn't too involved into it. The biggest book that I based my first couple years of training was Mark Wetmore's training running with the
Yeah.
Buffalo.
Sure. Yeah.
Basically, what I did, I found that book, and I wrote down their training program and said, "This is what we're doing."
Yeah. I'm not a distance guy by any stretch of the imagination, but I read that book and it's fascinating. I can't, Chris Lear, is that the author?
Yeah, I think it is Lear. Yeah,
Phenomenal, just did a phenomenal job of telling a story. And
yeah,
then my first year coaching junior college, I go to our summer meetings or whatever, and I meet this guy named Jay Johnson from, I think, Pratt Community College. And I was like, Jay Johnson. And, we maybe had to introduce ourselves. And he said he went to Colorado. I was like, dude, were you in the book? I was like, oh my God. Like I felt like I was meeting a rock star, bro. I
yeah,
was like, you were in the book. And I was like, I'm not even a distance guy. And I was geeking out for Jay Johnson,
yeah,
who has gone on to become an amazing coach and advisor and mentor for coaches. So that book, I love that. I mean, that's a great book. That is a form of coaching education. So I love that. All right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so 6 to 7 years. So but again, I keep kind of bringing this to your story here, Alan. I know you're coaching and you're doing a phenomenal job, and you're doing very I'm a coach as a career type things like adding track and stuff like that. But I'm not hearing
That's
at
not
this
the end
point,
goal.
yeah, I'm not hearing like I am a track coach at this point. There's still a lot of things you could have gone on and done, and I wouldn't have been surprised at this point.
Yeah, yeah. So what was it? I don't know. So I was still training, trying to become a marathoner, trying to make that
Oh,
big
that's
breakout.
right. That's right.
And so I'm still training, running marathons. I run Chicago a couple times in
Yeah.
there. I ran the Miami, as an elite runner. That was pretty cool to do,
Yeah.
experience that. But I was never putting together a really quality marathon time. And then I got into Boston, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Finished 100th overall and a stress fracture in my foot. So kind of breakout. Um, but we experienced the Boston bombings.
You were there. Oh,
So I finished. I mean, I was done. I ran 2 hours and 29 or 2 hours 30, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
What I ran all the time, I can never break past that. So we were done in plenty of time, and so my son's born at this time, and we're in the Cheesecake Factory, eating lunch and everything like that. We had been done, and all of a sudden we're checking out, and they're closing.
Were they there? Wife
Yeah,
and
yeah,
kid? Yeah.
yeah. We're gonna make a fun family trip out of it. So
Mm,
we actually reserved a whole week to be there.
mm.
And so we were leaving the Cheesecake Factory, and then they're blocking. We're gonna walk over to Barnes and Noble, and they're locking it. You gotta get out because there's been bombs. And we're like, what?
What do you
Bombs?
mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So they push us out, and we park. There's a parking garage underneath the complex there, and we get pushed out the streets, and then there's ambulances lined up, people crying. It was crazy, and we couldn't get our car, no public transportation, nothing. And so we're just huddled up. I got my son holding my arm. He's a little tight. And so he's sitting in my arms. He's passed out, sleeping, and we're just kind of sitting. I'm sitting by this garbage can, and then the police comes like, "You got to get away from garbage cans. The bombs in our garbage cans." So we're like, "Holy crap!" And so we get up and we just start walking. We're like, "We got to get away from this. We can experience this." And so if you actually, it's kind of crazy. If you go watch the Boston filming on Netflix, you can see me running. I'm in a lime green shirt and then down the home
No
stretch.
way. I was going to
Yeah,
ask you if you saw it,
yeah, yeah,
and even if you could, because you experienced it, so all rights to that
yeah,
you
yeah.
can't relive it. But that was, I tell people, that was an amazingly, in my opinion, I love documentaries, an amazingly well done documentary. Like
No, it was
I felt
phenomenal.
like I won't go to the point of saying I felt like I was there, but boy, I felt like I understood everything that was going
Yeah.
on leading up to, during. I mean, they did a phenomenal job. Yeah. So you're the lime green shirt.
Lime green shirt. It's like 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, something like that. And first part of the movie, you see this little lime green come in here. I'm kind of hobbling in because my foot hurts so bad. But you'll see a lime green shirt. Go
That's
buy it
awesome.
if you
Wow.
know what I am,
What an
what I look like. Yeah.
experience, dude.
But yeah, so we're just walking for miles and miles and miles, and our rental car's locked up. And so we actually just finally walked for it's like 2 hours. We just kept walking, trying to get away, and we finally run into. I mean, because we couldn't, the grid's blocked down. We couldn't make cell phone calls, nothing. Um, and we're trying to call our family, saying we're okay, we can't get out. And strangely enough, the newspaper town for the news crew from Billings that know who I am and follow our cross country program, they were able to get through on my cell phone, and so that was my only contact with the outside world. So I was like, yeah, just
Yeah.
tell my family we're fine, tell my wife's family we're fine, just let them know. And so they were able to put a blast up on the TV and stuff like that, let them know we were safe. So
That's crazy because no one can make calls.
no, so we get a rental
Wow.
car, and we started by the start. We made our hotel by the start line because we don't want to have to make the big trip in the morning. So we drove to our hotel, and we're sitting like, what do we do? I mean, we're supposed to go do the Boston museums. We're supposed to do a little duck rock, the all the marine stuff. I'm like, what do we
Yep.
do? So we're like, man, so like, well, we'll just go to Rhode Island. We'll get away. We'll just have a little fun.
Yeah.
Um, because my son, I don't know how old he is at this time, 4, 5, 6 maybe. And so all right, we'll go down there. So we spend a couple days down there, do a little whale watching tour, and we're driving back, and we were supposed to take the exit to get to our hotel back in Boston because things kind of quieted. It'd been a couple of days. Things are quieted down, and it's closed off, and they're like, you can't go this way, you can't go. To find out, that's where the manhunt happened, where they're shooting in the boat. We were supposed to stay in basically that same neighborhood. So then we just kept going and just walked into some hotel and got a hotel. And so, yeah, it was crazy experience to be a part
That's
of.
crazy,
Yeah,
dude.
just to think that we're part of history like that's insane.
Yeah, sadly, that's a sad part of
Yeah.
history to be involved in. All right.
And to this day, my wife can't, like, she's never watched a documentary.
Yeah,
She
that's what I'm saying. When I was going to ask, and I was like, and I completely understand if you can't watch it for crying out
Yeah, so
loud.
she
Yeah,
can't watch it, but
I
I've
get it.
watched it.
I
And
get it.
yeah,
Especially with the kid there. I mean, you just, and you're a father and you love your child. My experience, I got two kids. No one loves their children more than moms. Even the greatest loving dad, they're still mom.
for
So
sure.
for her, she starts, she's got her baby boy there, and it's just like all the things that could have gone wrong. We could have
Right.
been here, we could have been there. So I get it from her perspective. All right, let's for sake of time, let's move forward just a little bit here. Let's keep moving forward. So 6, 7 years at Rocky Mountain, qualified for Boston at the worst year to qualify. How do we move on? Why do we move on?
Yeah, so that was an eye opener for me. It was like life can be really short, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I was
yeah.
like, I told my wife, I said, I'm gonna do one more training cycle. I'm gonna buy in fully to it. I'm still coaching at the time, but I actually hired a coach. Alan Culpepper was my coach, which
Oh
was
yeah, I
pretty
know
cool.
Alan. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was kind of weird that summer. We have something called Big Sky State Games in Montana. It's kind of like a mini Olympics for Montana athletes. And the guest speaker that year was Webb Kefleski.
Nice.
Um, and so I was the local runner, so I got to go run with him for a few times, and they were friends, so it was pretty cool.
That's cool.
But I was bought in for training. Well, I was running the best I'd ever run. And then I'm gonna go back to CIM, get my revenge. My goal is to qualify for Olympic trials. Ended up getting bronchitis the week of, and did not go well. And I told my wife, I said I was 32 years old at this time, and I'm like,
Mm.
30, and I'm like, this is gonna be it, okay? And then we got to figure out what we're gonna do. And so it didn't go well, and I was like, I've got to pick something, and I think I'm meant to coach.
Hmm. So where now? This is the first time I'm hearing this,
Yep.
and I'm feeling this. What was why the switch here? Why the like? Okay, this is it. This is why I'm here.
Yeah. It became, even though I was still trying to become an athlete, it was becoming more and more fun to see my athletes get better than me to get better. I was getting more. I get more joy at having them and watching them win races than me win a race. And that was so cool to be a part of. And some of these, like my girls cross country team one year, we had 10 girls under 19, and none of those girls were under 20 in high school.
Right.
And it was just like, this is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a lot of fun. I had a kid, he was a 4:29 miler in high school, ran 4:06 indoor mile.
Dang.
I'm like, this is cool. It became more and more fun putting my energy into them than into me, and
Yep.
I became less and less selfish, I guess you could say.
No, hey, and that's exactly right. I was actually going to wait till the very end to bring that up. We brought this topic up several times in the podcast, where when you're an athlete, it's a very selfish pursuit, and that's not a bad thing. You're trying to take everything coach says to you, everything you do, eating, nutrition, things like that. It's all about, well, how can I make myself a better marathoner in this?
Right.
When you become a coach, everything that you're learning and things like that, you're digesting, and how do I push out to my athletes? And so I have no judgment towards athletes who are selfish, because you have to be, especially as you continue to climb up and become more and more elite, Olympic level, professional level, etc. And for coaches, it's like, oh, you're always trying to learn to how do I now talk to my kids better and make them better. So you've nailed it. You were able to have that awareness around that. That's right. Mm-hmm.
And so around that time, once I realized that I was going to be a coach, that's where the education comes in.
Okay.
USA level 1, USA level 2.
Yeah.
Started getting into coaches certifications.
Mm-hmm.
I was starting to go to coaching clinics and
Mm-hmm.
camps and doing all that. And it's all endurance distance based.
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
coaching anything else. Which at that same time, we needed a new athletic director on our campus during the same moment. And so we're bringing athletic directors from across the country in to interview for the job. And I was in charge of taking them out to dinner, and having, kind of welcoming and discussions. And, I met a couple of them. And one of the guys was from a school called Culver Stockton College.
Hmm.
He ended up not getting the job there. And then his cross-country coach quit. And this was, I guess, 07, I think? No, I started in 07. That was in 2014, 13, 14. He called me up out of the blue and said, "Hey, this is, from Culver, and, but I really enjoyed you. I know I didn't get the job, but my coach just quit. Would you be willing to make a move out here?"
Wow.
Isn't
that interesting?
Yeah. You just never know who you're going to meet and the connections you're going to have. And so he calls me up, and I'm like, I don't know. My whole family's in Billings.
Right.
We've been to life, I've got a good thing going. I mean, we're top 25 in the country.
Right.
All Americans, 4x8's killing it. I've got these studs that they're freshmen and sophomore. They're all running 155 or faster than 800, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I can get that up. So I said, let me think about it for a couple of days, and so then I go to my kind of the new athletic director that we hired. That was not because this guy didn't get the job.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I've been offered an opportunity, and was wondering, if you guys be able to step up to the plate and actually make it so I could stay.
Right.
Because financially, you need to support family.
Absolutely.
So they said they couldn't do anything. And they said they just weren't in place. And I said, well, what if we add full track and field? I came up with an own budget, and I said, hey, I can bring this many kids in. We can do this. And we're just not. And basically, what he said to me is, I'll never forget. He said, we're never going to add track and field here, like the full-fledged track and field.
Right. Wow.
And I was like,
well, that's
okay.
good to know. That's good to know. It's better than the alternative saying, yeah, we might do this, Alan, stay. And it never happens,
Yeah. And I mean, he was honest, and I said, okay. And so then I called back to the athletic director, and I said, I'll apply. I'll be interested. I want to see it. I want to see what I get myself into, because, I love Billings, Montana. I still do. My whole family's still there.
Right.
And so they fly me out. I do a thing. They have a track facility. They have some things going for them. Not much for athletes. It was a track and field team, men and women combined, of like 18.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And so it wasn't much, but he knew I could recruit. If I can recruit 40 something for cross country, then
Yeah, right.
I should be able to do something in track. And so I said, okay. And then so I get done with my interview. And by the time I get home, he's no longer the athletic director there. And I start getting phone calls from the president of the college instead of him because he's no longer there. And I'm like, this is kind of scary,
Yeah.
And, this is kind of scary. And so I put, like, well, what would it take for you to be our coach here? And I'm dealing with the president now. And so I'm like, I put out a number I thought was really high. Well, today I realized it wasn't really high, but for me at the time, it was really high. And so I put out a number for there, and she goes, that's a little bit more we wanted to offer. I'm like, okay, I understand. And she calls me back 2 hours later and says, we'll pay you that.
Wow.
I was like, so I go to my wife, and I'm like, they're actually going to pay me this much to go coach. And so yeah, and it was a tough time because at that time I was in the middle of cross country season. And so I said, I'm not going to leave these kids, at least in cross country. I'll come out, in December. So I had to tell my kids that I had to leave that behind. And then I go over to Culver, and the deal I made with the athletic director, which obviously didn't get conveyed up the chain with the new athletic director, was once I get to 50 athletes, you need to help me, get some full-time assistant coaches. Because
absolutely.
You can't. And that was a deal I made. It wasn't written down. It was just kind of a verbal agreement. Yeah, we're gonna do that for you and all that. Yeah. All right, cool. And so the new athletic director did not have that same vision. And so I was there for 4 years. We had an athlete go to national every year I was there in track and field, which they had one athlete before that ever go to nationals.
Wow.
We had the first All-American female sprinter. So I'm coaching sprints now too. I'm coaching throws, I'm coaching vault. I'm coaching all these other things. I had a national qualifier pole vaulter, 2 high jumpers. I had an All-American high jumper. It was just crazy. And I'm like, I really don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I'm
making it work.
As much effort into these kids as I can, and learning as much as I can. So this is where a lot of the education you talked earlier. So this is where I go to USATFCCCA. I started getting strength and conditioning certified.
Right.
Doing all these other certifications, meeting coaches, talking to coaches, and then one of the events that I've become pretty passionate about when I was there was pole vault, because I had some pretty good pole vaulters, and I didn't know what I was doing with pole vault.
Right.
And so I started making trips down to St. Louis, Missouri to the pole vault club, taking my wife, my son, my athletes are going to pole vault a couple times, every couple of weeks pole vault, and I kind of get wrapped into the pole vault. I had a kid, he went from a 9-foot pole vaulter to a 16-foot pole vaulter in a year.
Wow.
So cool. And
that's crazy.
He's not a typical pole vaulter. He was 5'3". You think, if you're going to be a big pole vaulter, you got to be a big kid.
Yeah.
But he was quick.
Wow.
He had a problem where he would get injured pretty easy.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, pole vault, he didn't get injured because it was only 30 meters.
So, that's a good point. Let's double click into that because this is where you meet a mutual friend of ours, Chris Zeller of PV St. Louis.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, during our pre-recording session, we talked about, I think curiosity is a superpower, and you had the curiosity of, you could have easily, and no one would have said anything against you if you'd have said, we're not doing pole vault because I don't know pole vaulting, guys. I barely know high jumping. I'm hanging on over there, guys. What in the world am I going to do with pole vaulting? But you took it upon yourself, like, okay, I need to find, I got to learn more. And you mentioned where you were. You're like, you don't find pole vault coaches just hanging off trees. So I wasn't going to be able to hire a pole vault coach. And so you started looking around and you find Chris down at Pole Vault St. Louis. And I think this is a real interesting factoid, or not statistic, but something about our sport, about like the importance of these pole vault clubs that have sprung up around the country. You get into contact with Chris, and Chris, pole vault guys in general, but Chris as well, very much our giver. They're like, you want to learn about pole vault? Well, I love to teach people pole vault. Come on down. And so you guys strike up a relationship, and this is where you learn to vault. You personally learn to vault. You get through some sessions to kind of create that sensation and learn how to coach it.
Yeah. So and I still pole vault today, which is kind of funny. So I broke the 12-foot barrier in my life, which is kind of cool to say. Um, I'm actually nursing a hamstring injury from pole vaulting now. Now you're
Wow.
45, things just don't hold on as long as they used
That
to.
that sounds like a pole vaulter right there, buddy. Oh my
So,
gosh. Have you started
um,
complaining about your back yet? That's the other great pole vaulting.
I actually do have permanent back issues, but that's a separate issue from a torn quad. So we'll just, yeah. Oh, that's all happened as you get past 40. Things just don't
Yeah,
hold on as they
that's
used
true. That's true.
but yeah, so Chris is awesome. Obviously, some skinny distance runner trying to learn pole vault. I'm sure he thought it was kind of a joke,
Yeah,
obviously, when
sure.
I
Yeah.
met him. But yeah, I did. I will dive all the way into something when I get
That's
curious
cool.
about something. And it's all the events, and all the athletes too.
Yeah.
So when I was down there, my first practice started at 6 a.m. and I didn't have one. I tried not to have one big team practice and just send kids off to themselves.
Good.
During the track season, I would do that a little bit more, but in the fall and the winter and the conditioning, all that stuff, I wanted to really work with the kids, and so I set myself up with 2 hour blocks all day long. So I'd start at 6 and I'd finish my last session about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
Oh,
So I was doing
brutal.
all the event groups with
Brutal.
the throws and the jumps and the javelin. I had a kid that was there, helped him break the school record my first year. He had a little off schedule. He's a nursing student, and so when I first moved out to Missouri, that first 4 or 5 months I was there for the track season, no family. They stayed in Billings. My son was in school at the time. I want to make sure I didn't pull him out because I hate pulling people out midway through years, obviously. And so it was kind of a blessing for me in disguise that I could put almost 20-hour days, it felt like, just into learning everything because I had no clue about anything but distance running.
All right.
And so I'm learning how to do blocks for the first time. I didn't know how to even use a set of blocks. Learning hurdles, learning, pole vault, learning
Wow.
hammer, learning weight throw, learning javelin. So yeah, so
Wow.
I was, and so Eric would come in, he was my javelin kid, and he would get done with his nursing school about 6, 7 o'clock at night, and he would come in and
Mm.
see me because my temporary office was actually in the lower part of a dorm, and so when he'd come in, he'd see the light still on, and he'd come in, and we'd hang out and look at javelin videos together
All
and all
right.
sorts. So yeah,
Wow.
so
Well,
I'm a big craft nerd.
yeah, I love the you brought up something I didn't even think about when you're talking about, this skinny distance runner walks into, PV St. Louis and it's like, yeah, I could just see Chris like, I know his enthusiasm for pole vaulting and teaching people pole vaulting, and but then seeing like you coming in going, all right, maybe not this one. Like, what does he do? You're a marathoner, get out of here,
Yeah,
But I could see Chris, taking on that challenge, and obviously it worked out really well. So shout out to Chris, PV St. Louis. Shout out to a lot of our track or our pole vault clubs specifically around the country. It's quite
yeah,
amazing. It's one of the few events in track and field that we very easily call a sport. We say the sport of pole vaulting, and it's very interesting. I don't know that I've heard that language around like, the sport of shot putting or the sport of 5K, and but we call pole vaulting a sport, and I think that's pretty special. And guys like Chris are helping that positive culture there. All right, so Culver Stockton, 'cause we're getting closer on our time here.
sorry about
No, no,
that.
no, no, no. This is no apology. This has been fascinating. This is great. You're getting close to being able to have someone write a book or a short story at this point of the most interesting man in track and field. I mean, you're Alaska, for crying out loud. I don't want, I don't want to say a failed distance runner in college, but
Right.
not a overly successful distance runner because you made it to
Oh,
nationals. I mean, so again, I
yeah.
mean, let's be real here. That's hard as it is, but it wasn't like you were like a 5K All-American who ends up becoming a marathoner. I mean, that's amazing to me. It's all over Boston, and of course, the specific Boston. It's really interesting. How many years at Culver?
4 years.
You build an actual pro. Did they ever get you assistant coaches?
No, and that's one of
Oh,
the reasons. That's one of the reasons I left because
yeah.
my last year I had 85 athletes and no help.
Dude, that's
Yeah,
that is I think I said this on a other podcast here recently. And I just got back from a convention of just college athletic directors. And so really got to, deep dive. There's presenters, and I went to a lot of presentations and kind of learned more about an athletic director's role. And it's unbelievable. This one guy, Mike Herman from University of Illinois Springfield, actually athletic director there, amazing guy. I love him. He did a presentation on community involvement, community engagement with his coaches and administration. And just talks about all the things. There's a million things. And I realized, oh gosh, he just described this much of the entire job. Like what he just described was a full-time job. Oh, and he's also got to worry about retention of coaches and fundraising and blah, 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 schedulings and all these other kind of things. And so I got some more empathy towards our athletic directors in our administration. However, I think it is, criminal is a strong word, but I'm going to use that in this area here. When our schools, our institutions bring on track or have track and then don't support it. And it's one thing if, I like transparency and upfront. It's one thing if Culver Stockton comes to you and says, "Hey, Alan, I'd love for you to be the head, you're not even the head coach, you're just the coach, to be the track coach there. You're going to be on your own. We're not going to have any paid assistants, part-time or anything like that." And because of that, our expectations are going to be very low. We don't want you to have 85 guys. We don't want you to have pole. You're a distance guy. You know what? Go build a great distance program that you can handle and you have. I would be okay with that. But when it's, and I don't know necessarily this is the situation at Culver, because you have a lot of self-drive as well. So there's a little bit of like, I don't care if they did. I was going to have good athletes and all these other, I could see that too. But there's a lot of institutions that say, "Hey, Alan, in this example, you're going to be the only coach. We're not going to give you assistance, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and we require you to have 80, 85, 90 kids." That to me is criminal. It's like, well, you would never say, "Hey, we're going to start a football team. We're only going to hire 2 coaches. One's going to be the offensive coach." That's all you need. Offensive coach and defensive coach, right? That's all you need. We would never do that, but we do that all the time. I shouldn't say that all the time. We do that in a good, too many situations. We do that in track and field. We are underfunded, not equipment budget. I'd love for you to have more of that. But I'm talking about equipment. I'm talking about travel. I'm talking about just our personnel, the people that are actually taking care, overseeing these young people. We are understaffed, under budgeted in a lot of places. And I do think that's critical because you're dealing with the kids, you're dealing with their safety, their student athlete experience, et cetera. You don't have an English department and have one English teacher. It's just ridiculous. I just can't stand that. So again, not necessarily your situation there, but it's scary to me when I hear 85 kids and one coach. And you could be the greatest coach in the world, Alan, maybe you are, but it's still almost impossible to be the pole vault coach, the high jump coach. Oh, and by the way, a husband, a father, someone who has some kind of regular life, maybe you go to church, a passion, a charity, things like that. That's crazy to me. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was tough. I had a couple of guys coming in and out, kind of like volunteer assistant for a season, but there's no funding for it. It was definitely a challenge for sure.
Consistency is king, and that's not consistency, brother. Yeah. Absolutely. So I get it that's maybe did you start looking, or was the next situation opportunity looking for you?
So I was looking. I was actively looking, applying for lots of jobs. I went on 3 or 4 interviews. Nothing clicked. Nothing. I was asking too much for some places for a salary, and I wasn't experienced enough for the places that were going to be able to afford the salary, basically. Yeah, sure. Because I was track and field. You have to have some pretty experience to get a little bit better paying jobs. And so I just got my last. I remember it was a Monday. I got a rejection from a school I applied for, saying no, we're not. It was a D2, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't. You're not the right person for us." And however, they try to politely say that. Yeah. And so I was pretty bummed. So I actually took a lunch break that day. I went home and I kind of thought about it. It's like, man, maybe I'm just gonna have to be here or quit coaching. I'm kind of at my end of it all because I was burnt out.
Sure.
Yeah, and so I get back to my office, and I have a missed phone call and a message from Craig Jackson from Umpqua Community College.
Never heard of it. You're just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So I'm like, quick do a search, and it's like in Oregon. Oh, Oregon's cool.
Okay, yeah, right. Keep going.
Yeah, but then I had that thought, like, but a community college.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to ask that. Yep.
It's such a terrible, now that I've been in it for so long, it's such a terrible stigma
Yeah.
out.
Did you have any experience with junior college besides knowing maybe they were there, but like, did you recruit? You just
I
like
would
what?
try to recruit community college kids, but I never get them because we didn't have the budget to get the good ones.
Sure. Like, what was your attitude towards junior college? Was it like, oh, that's where the non-qualifiers go, and who coaches there?
I had no idea what a community college was. We had
Yeah.
zero community colleges in Montana.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I was not contacted by any community colleges when I was coming out of high school.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, where I coached in Montana, we didn't run against any community colleges except for Gillette.
Yeah. So you really had no idea.
No idea what a community college really was.
Okay.
I thought it was just a place for vocational studies kids.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought. I thought they were going to be truck drivers, they were going to be welders, electricians.
Mechanics. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because we had a community college where I went to school, Mitchell Tech, and that's what they were.
Yep. Very, very common. That's fair.
Athletics there, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, community college. So I was like, I don't know, but I was like, I better, I'll be decent. Call the guy back, and got off the phone with him, and I found out that he ran track in high school. He ran track in college. Was a decathlete. I'm like, okay. And so I was like, okay, so he's gonna be into it a little bit, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the things when I was leaving Culver and made up my mind on leaving Culver, I was like, no football. I can't be a place with football because at the small schools, what I found, so I got two small schools, huge resource drainer, I guess, for lack of, and I love football. I love to watch football. I mean, what we do for fundraising here is we go work the Oregon football games as a track team. I love football, but at small schools, there's such a drain on budgets, and to me, it felt like track's always going to suck.
Maybe large schools too, by the way. But yeah, keep going.
Okay. but yeah, I mean, these kids are going in Missouri. I mean, we didn't travel farther than 2 hours away.
Right.
But they're going the night before, get their own beds, they stay in, and they're playing a 2-hour, 3-hour game.
Yeah. It's not I'm starting to kind of come around to a different terminology. I used to say kind of what you're saying there about like it's a resource suck. It takes a lot of resources. It doesn't take a lot of resources. It takes resources, but so does track and tennis and golf, etc. It is I'm starting to kind of come around to a language of like it's a priority suck because I don't believe Culver Stockton did not have the money to pay you a fair wage or assistant coaches. They decided to put those resources in other places, whether that's is that another night that they didn't need to stay because it was 2 hours because they expect those track guys to go 12 hours and immediately compete, by the way. We don't get to stay overnight and things like that. So to me, it's more, I'm starting to like change my language of like, this is a priority issue, not a resource issue. Yeah. Okay.
That makes a lot of sense.
So you keep searching, researching about Umpqua. Yeah.
Yep. And so there's no football. There's no football in any community colleges out in Oregon or Washington. So
is that right? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so and then the kind of the kicker was I looked up the weather forecast. No snow.
Oh.
I'm like, okay, so there's no snow. There's no football. Track and field is going to be the biggest sport on campus, most likely.
And an AD who likes track,
Who likes track and field, and so I did an interview.
A lot of positives.
There's a lot of checks. And then they told me the salary, and I was like, okay.
You're like, hold on.
College makes this much. Wait, what's going on here? Why are universities not doing this?
Again, a priority. Not a resources. Yes, love it. I love it.
And so then I was like, okay, there's a lot of things. And so I did the interview process. I accepted the job, and I said, we're moving. My wife is on board. When I was at Culver, I was there for 4 years. It felt like 10.
Oof.
You know what I mean? You just get in those situations.
Yeah.
I've been here going on 8. It feels like I've been here for 2 years.
Wow.
So it's a completely different type of environment experience. So we're training. So we're able to train year round out here. It's so cool. So I came out here, for somehow we got 19 kids my first year for track even though I was kind of coaching out there and recruiting out here, kind of doing that same thing. Not to say we were going to be the most talented and score a ton of points, but we had kids go to conference and things, and a lot of learning and still kind of grasping things. luckily, I've Roseburg is a retirement community.
Mm-hmm.
And so the assistants I do have for a lot of time are retired people.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to talk about knowledge retirement people in the community that I
Mm.
get.
Yeah, right.
Um, yeah, our javelin coach Jim Feeney. I don't know if you've heard of him.
That
Javelin
name
champ.
sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we own the junior college school record, national record in javelin.
Dude.
We have 80. We have a kid. He was a local kid through 197 in high school and finished ninth at Olympic trials 3 years later. 80.6 meters. You're
Wow.
like, what is going on? So
Holy.
blessed to have him. We have 60-meter javelin throwers every single year.
Wow.
So
So you said you started with 19. How many do you have now? Because I feel like you're a
well,
recruiter
right
grower.
now, as of right now, before any more melt might happen, because it happens a
Yeah.
lot, we're at 62 for this next year's draft.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Holy. So
yeah,
my favorite question to ask is for some of their first time junior college coaching. And same thing. I did 2 years of high school, 3 years of 4 year, and then a year of junior college. You know, when you're a high school coach, besides the coaching and things you're always doing, you're always trying to get your kids recruited to to go to college, whether it's
yeah,
athletically or academically, right? And that's hard. Getting your kids to find the right schools and things like that. That's hard. That's hard. When you're at a 4 year school, besides the coaching and things like that, you're always trying to recruit kids to your school. That's hard. There's a lot of competition. You're trying to separate yourself. You have budgets and scholarships, all that kind of thing. That's extremely hard. Extremely hard. Junior college coaches are doing both at the same time all the time. You are always trying to
yeah.
get kids into your program and you're always trying to get them out and recruited. How have you adjusted to that? Because you've been used to just I say just only the one side of like, oh, hey, come to me.
Man.
You're also like, wait a minute, I would also like to help you move on to a 4 year.
Yeah. My first couple of years, it was really hard trying to get people to take our kids because they're like, "What is a school?" Their numbers, and we didn't have the most talented at the time, but they were some awesome kids,
Mm.
And we did get some kids moved on. And if I'm going to move a kid on, I'm going to. I have maybe a little different standard as far as my athletes are concerned. Yes, we're going to make mistakes, we're going to do things, but I want to make sure. So I don't have a ton of team rules. I have one rule. It's a stupid rule. So don't do anything your parent, coaches, teammates would consider stupid.
That's a pretty good rule, though.
I mean, I stole it from somebody else years ago.
That's a pretty good rule.
Well, yeah, I mean,
It
just don't.
encompasses a lot of things.
Yeah, just don't be stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that takes care of the alcohol, the
Yeah.
partying,
Yeah.
smoking
Yeah.
pot,
Not
not going to
studying,
class. Yeah,
hanging around
try
wrong
to take care of
people.
all of
Yeah.
that. I'm also not a hard-nosed coach. I don't yell at my kids.
Hmm.
I don't say you have to be a practice or else
Hmm.
or else. I'm like, if you're going to be a practice, I'm going to pour my whole heart and soul into you.
Hmm.
And the athletes that buy into that, because I'm not going to be able to monitor 60
Yeah.
transcripts. I'm not going to be able to monitor grades for all those kids.
Right.
And so I just try and build relationships like that to try and get
Yeah.
them to buy into what I'm trying to do.
Right.
And they understand that we don't have the resources as far as a facility. We had no facility. It's actually breaking ground on doing one now.
Don't spoil it yet. We're gonna sell
Yep, yep.
in a minute. We're getting close.
But for Zach, when he was throwing 80 meters in javelin, we threw horse stall mats out, and he was practicing horse stall mats.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude.
So yeah, so it's not like it's just, and that just goes to show you don't have to have the resources
That's
to
right.
make life a little easier. I hope.
That's right. I think that's the right way. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I had some good things, some conference champs, most valuable athlete in the conference.
What are you guys aren't NJCAA, correct?
We're part of the NWAC,
Yeah, that's the Northwest.
Northwest Athletic
So
Conference.
Washington and Oregon's, is that right?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So do you have your own like national championship or how does that work?
Yeah, you could call it a national. It's a conference championship.
Okay.
It's like nationals. The
That's
top three are
your big
considered
meet at the
All-Americans.
year.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And so we do compete in that. We've been fortunate to be top three a couple times since I've been here, which is pretty cool to consider. We've had no facility and
Yeah.
kids in all over the country, and
Right.
I think one of the best thing for my recruiting since I've been here, in a weird way, is COVID,
Hmm.
because you couldn't bring people on campus anymore.
Hmm.
You couldn't bring in. So I was like, I'm going to recruit everybody I can across the country. And they changed the rules before you could only recruit kids from the states around Oregon at the time.
Oh yeah.
And then they changed it where you can recruit international, you can recruit nationwide.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I started hitting Instagram. I didn't know what that was until 2020.
That's
So I
awesome.
figured out Instagram,
Yeah, good for
and
you. Yeah.
I probably do 80 to 100 video tours a year, walking around campus with my phone, showing them buildings because
Dude.
I can't fly kids from Florida, I
Right.
can't fly
Right.
kids in from Jamaica, I can't
Right.
fly
Right.
kids in from Great
Right.
Britain. So I just walk around campus talking to them. We're
Wow.
doing this, but over Instagram.
You know, so I'm a huge social media advocate, specifically on Twitter, but Instagram, Facebook, it doesn't matter to me. I think of podcasting actually as a social media channel. So, and you always hear about, people railing about how bad social media is. And I tend to, like, well, you forgot that when TV came out, by the way, that was the devil. That was going to ruin us. When the telephone came out, when radio came out, all these things, these were all things that were going to destroy us and they were terrible and all these bad things happen. And bad things do happen on TV, telephones, etc. And bad things do happen on social media, yes. But we forget about the good of social media. What a great example of how to leverage some technology for your situation to be successful. Not only for you to be successful, that's one thing for sure. That's your job is to be successful as the track coach there. But you've changed people's lives by getting them to you have kids that are on your program, have been through your program that didn't have an opportunity, did not have a chance to go somewhere. And because you had a cell phone and Instagram, baby, you do. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, that's why when I say I'm an advocate of social media, that is the positive of social media. I love that. That's fantastic, man. I love hearing that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been helpful for me to move kids on to
So
places too.
cool. Yeah.
People are seeing our programs, other
Right. That's
follow us, and
right. Yeah.
it's
I
been
love
really
that.
cool. I mean, as far as you're talking about moving kids on, I mean, I've got to meet coaches from all levels I never thought I'd be in touch with. We have a kid that, you mentioned Florida. He just
Mhm.
finished second for him in javelin.
Oh,
He's a
nice.
UCC Riverhawk. He finished second NCAA's.
No
Yeah.
way. Oh,
So
that's
so
awesome.
yeah. So
That's
so we've
so
been able to
cool.
push kids on. We had another kid just missed nationals for Cal Poly. And it's just
Wow.
like, and I'm not, from my history and where I'm from, I'm not a D1 proponent as far as like
Hmm.
it's not D1 or bust. I've been asked if I want to coach D1, and I'm afraid to coach D1 because I don't think I'd have the same joy as I would as
Hmm.
working with the kids like I do here.
Yeah.
Maybe if I was an assistant coach at a D1 somewhere and things
Yeah.
like that. But I don't know. I talk to so many coaches and what they do as far as the administration stuff, and I
Yeah.
kind of do some of that, but not the level they're doing.
Right, right. I loved your self-awareness there. I can't remember if we talked about this before after we hit record, but there's the D1 buster mentality, and we love to rail at 18-year-olds about that. And I tell you what, I sit in a pretty special chair as a track and field coach advocate. I pay attention to what coaches are saying on the high school, college level, and I see I don't know if I want to say just as much, but I see too much of the same D1 or bust mentality. Someone saying, "Oh, I want to coach D1. I have to coach D1. If I'm going to be anything of a coach, I need to coach D1." Well, that's not true. It's not true at all. The other day I was listening to a podcast of a high school coach. Great podcast. I won't, because of the story, I won't name the. Normally I would shout out the podcast, tell you go listen, but because the story is not that great, they said, "Oh, we're gonna have to, revisit this podcast in a year or two because there'll probably be another state championship or conference championship or D1 athlete to celebrate." And I was like, that's contributing to the problem. He said D1 athlete, not another kid goes to college for track. He specifically said D1. I was like, that is D1 or bust, buddy. That's the definition as well. So I love you have some self-awareness of like, okay, it's the highest level, right? As far as, it's the number, we count opposite D3, D2, D1. So it's the highest level and all that kind of stuff. And there are schools in that level that have the most resources. That's a fact. So maybe it's okay to ascertain to get to that level. And maybe that's the right. Maybe that is the right level for you, Alan. We could revisit this in 10 years and we may be talking to the next head coach of University of Oregon. We don't know. But that doesn't change who you are. That doesn't make you better than someone else because you have D1 across your chest and versus community college. It's who you are, the positive impact you're making on young people. And that's what you're doing right there in Roseburg, Oregon, baby. It's amazing.
And I think one of the benefits to our sport, unlike other sports, is you don't have to go to D1 to compete against D1.
It's a great point.
I mean, we were at a meet this year at Hayward Field, it's Texas A&M, Wichita State, Oregon,
That's a great point.
OSU, and it's Umpqua Community College is there.
That's a great point. If we're talking about a basketball player or a football player who wants to go pro, which again, I know the ability to do that is none. No one goes to the NBA. It's very few people, right? Things like that. But I'm willing to bet because of culture and prejudices, and maybe because of facilities and monies and budgets and things like that, you're going to have a better chance to go pro if you go to University of Texas versus I'll throw my alma mater under the bus here, Troy University, small D1. I'm willing to bet you got a better opportunity. You still got to be a great athlete and all that kind of things, but I'm willing to bet. Same with football. I'm willing to bet you just have it may not even be that small. Actually, maybe a little bit bigger, but in track, that 100 meters at Umpqua, it's the same 100 meters at the LA 28 Olympics. It'll be the same distance, brother. So if you run a 970 there,
so black and white.
970 there. I love it.
Yeah, it's so black and white.
Well, normally, Alan, one of my most common questions to wrap up a podcast episode is to ask you, so as you stare into the future and you get to define the future next year, 5 years, 10 years down the road, what's got you excited about the future at your school there at Umpqua Community College? But we know we're here to celebrate, baby. Tell us some good news that's going on at Umpqua, literally out your window right now.
Yeah, out my window. I don't know if you hear construction or not in the background or not, but we are building a brand new state-of-the-art facility. We're so excited here, been blessed, obviously. And like I alluded to earlier, out here, I mean, the support for track and field is real.
You got that same track AD guy still there?
Yeah, he's been here the whole time.
Did you say Mark or David?
Greg.
First,
CRA.
Oh, Craig. Sorry, thank you, Craig. First of all, shout out to you, Craig, because you're a track guy. We all love you for that. But what great support you're showing track coaches and your student athletes there. So just grateful for that. So yeah, we're building a facility, baby.
Yeah, and it's obviously not him. It's the foundation, obviously here. I mean, great things there. I mean, college president's behind us.
That's awesome.
What is it? When the Olympic trials were here a couple years ago, she took the track team and sat with us in the stands and watched Olympic trials with us. What college president is doing that with their track team?
Zero.
Yeah. So Rachel's awesome. I mean, it's so fun to be supportive here, have that support, and as we're growing, they've actually starting to increase my stipend for assistant coaches. So I'm actually starting to. I got an interview this week for hopefully a new sprints coach. So starting to be able to track some quality people.
You don't have to do it all by yourself.
Yeah, and I haven't been. I've had a great.
I'm talking about your career. Yeah. Oh, Alan.
All these other people. I mean, we have 5 or 6 people on staff every year, but it's exciting to have that support. And they recently moved me from teaching. I'm no longer going to be teaching anymore. I'm going to go more to the admin side because now I'm going to be starting to schedule track meets and get events going. So my job is
That's
changing.
a big change.
Yeah, so there's a big growth here, but recruiting is always challenge and fun. It's probably we've had some success recruiting, but it's also things I probably hate the most about coaching. But you've got to do it if you want to be successful. And I'm getting better every year. I mean, I've been going 20 years of coaching now.
Right? That's crazy. Yeah.
But I'm getting better, I think. For females are hard to find. All those girls, man.
Yeah, I think that's the junior college issue, just to be frank with you. Yeah,
it's across the board, and and NWAC is awesome. I mean, we have some studs in here. And the coaching, I mean, you remember Dan West, I think last year, the year before, I came across that on the podcast, and he was the guy. I was like, man, I don't know if Popo's ever going to really catch up to him.
No.
But luckily, we took him out not this past season, but the year before, and I'm like, we got one from him. So,
that's cool.
So it's always fun to have that, and he's awesome. High energy, love his passion for it. I mean,
great dude.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just a great place, and
that's so exciting, man.
Basically, Tracktown USA is right here in Oregon. So
this comes all the way from the very top. Our CEO, who was I can't remember if it's 4 or 5 time. I've said it so many times I've now forgotten the number. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. 5 time All-American at Baylor for pole vaulting. So pole vaulting, pole vaulting is a
pretty big down there.
Pretty important event sport for us here. But he taught me something very early in my career here. Been almost 19 years. Very, very cool. Actually, by the time you guys are listening to this, it'll have been officially 19 years here at Gill. And he taught me very early, healthy things grow. And the first time he said it, I thought it was a cute, catchy phrase. It's like, healthy things grow. But then I started thinking about gardens. Like, oh, yeah, only healthy gardens grow. You pull out weeds and you give it nutrition and water and things like that. Healthy humans grow. We've seen the unfortunate side effects of unhealthy humans. They don't grow, and bad things happen. And it started making me think, really hard, like, oh, wait a minute, that's right. Healthy things grow. So businesses, people, etc. And so programs. So when I hear about programs that are investing more into, more salary. So so we can hire more coaches or pay our current coaches more. When I hear about building new facilities, of course, when I hear about supporting a coach who doesn't have to teach anymore, you can focus on, that's healthy, that's growth, and that's really good for our sport. And that is something I think we should all celebrate. We love to bemoan when we hear of a track program being cut, and we should. It's a terrible thing. I hate when programs are cut. But that same energy we put into that negative side of things, I want to help be the leader of the same energy going into the positive. And that's why we wanted to have you on here, Alan, because you guys are growing, man. It's great for our sport. Umpqua is going to be better to support more athletes that need to go to community college for many, many reasons and go on to do other things. And when I say other things, I don't mean go to the Olympics and stuff. Certainly, there's no reason I think there wouldn't be a kid. I'm talking about they're going to go on and become teachers, coaches, neighbors. It's just going to be amazing, the continued growth there at Umpqua.
No, we're very excited. Obviously, I mean, we're always going to have to fundraise more and more, but I mean, always. What the school has done for us, getting the facility, I mean, we're not going to have seating for a year or two as we continue to fundraise for bleachers and stuff like that and keep adding on. But yeah, I mean, they've buckled down and said we're going to support track and field, and so hopefully I can bless them with some good things to happen in the future.
We started this podcast by talking about New Hayward Field, and that was, something like a $270 million project and everything. But we forget, Hayward Field was open in 1919. The reason I can remember that is Gill started in 1918, and I'm always like, or 1 year older than Hayward, baby. You had to have Gill before you had Hayward, right? Yeah. But when Hayward Field was open in 1919, it did not look anything like today. It grew, right? It grew to the great classic Hayward that we had, and now it's grown to the new. So I'm not saying you're necessarily going to be, because I hope there's a million Haywards, that come around in the next 20, 30, 40 years. But what you're saying, you're there, you're building the track now. You didn't have a track now. You're building a track. Then you'll build seating and maybe lighting and then build, other infrastructure. And it's just going to, as long as we keep going forward, we're healthy, we're going to continue to grow. Man, we're just so excited for you guys, man. That's, like I said, we love the sport growing, and that's what's happening right there on your campus.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. I just wish more people would take up track and field and get them to do it in college, because there's so many kids that do it in high school that never get the chance. And
I know,
even if they're not very good in high school, you just don't know. Like, I had that girl that was a 23-minute walk-on girl running 17 5Ks. And
that's right. That's a great point. It's the number one sport participation rate in high school and college, and yet it's something like 7, 8, 9% actually go on to college. And it's like, oh my God, that means what could the numbers look like in college? You're exactly right. I love that. That's
yeah, and community college. I mean, talking about budget. I mean, yeah, we're doing a lot big, but it's affordable. I mean, people can, if a kid gets the Max Pell Grant here, they get a school for free.
Wow.
So it's just like, why not do that? Even if you want to have those dreams of going D1, D2. I'm talking about all junior colleges, wherever you're at.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
I totally wish I would have went that route. I would have paid off my student loans before I was 43.
Trust me, I talked to my two kids early about, we have a great community college, Parkland Community College here, we talked early, because we also have University of Illinois where my wife went. So it's like, yeah, great. I hope you do go to University of Illinois. That's awesome. Parkland, half the price. They have a program that works directly with U of I, so it's guaranteed the transfer. I'm like, pretty smart guy, because you're only getting so much from dad here, so you better figure it out. Alan, my man, one of the most important, most valuable, most expensive things you can give me is your time, brother. And I know you've got something big coming up here in about 13 minutes, so we're gonna wrap up here. But I just want to say thank you, man. I'm just so really blown away. It's really interesting. Again, in the seat that I sit here, I don't know what episode this is going to be, 300 and close to 330. So I've done, over 300 interviews, and way many more, because there's other bonus episodes and stuff. And you would think I would start in year 6 I would start to find like, lanes like, oh, this coach is going to be this type. This is how he got into coaching. And this is the, lane two is this how they come into coaching. And Alan, you just threw me for a loop, brother. I've had no
Sorry
one
about
like I've
that.
had no one like this. No one has been like this, and that I love that. I just love that that diversity that we have in ways to become track coaches. That there is no one. I love that there's no one path. I love that there's many distinct paths because that background, the things that you've learned, the things that you've been through, those help enrich your current student athletes today. That they make up who you are, and that's how you're able to part to them, man. I just think that's so cool, and I'm just so blessed that you would sit down with us and share your journey with us today and our listeners.
Well, I'm just blessed I get to hang out with 18, 19-year-old kids that keep me young, you know? It's hard to age when you're hanging out with kids that
I
have so
hear
much
you.
energy all the time and a lot of
And the opposite, they can age you real fast as well, my friend.
yeah, I've done some of that too.
Alan, thank you again so much. Really, just grateful you would sit down with us here today. Please give our love to your wife. I love her kind of, she's on the side of the story because we're talking to you, but man, what a blessing
Would not be
she
possible
is
without
for
that.
you and your family and then for your athlete. I love that she was driving van. I mean, come on, man. I have such a heart for our spouses of track coaches. So please give her our love as well and tell her that we said thank you as well because she doesn't do what she does. You don't get to do what you do. And if you don't get to do what you do, I don't get to do what I do. So it's a change. She's affected people in a positive way that she doesn't even know. So please give her our love there as well. Okay.
Will do. Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for being here again this week. I know this was two junior colleges in a row. Who knows? I don't know I don't know in my head yet, schedule wise, what's next. Maybe it's another community college because, I just have such love. We could have spent hours just on community college because I just think that level, there's so many positive. We started touching just briefly there about the cost and locations and the opportunities and things like that. And it's just, it's a big part of my heart is our junior college, community colleges out there. So just so grateful that you were here to join us today. Join us next week. We'll do it all over again. Thanks, guys.